Why?
Is that the only vibrations we've got? Wow.
John Wallace time.
Hey.
About time.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Well, he had sent his laptop in for service or whatever, and then they were like, nope, can't fix it. So he ended up having to get he was thinking he was going to get 2 laptops, but then he got one for Christmas, but the other one was totally borked. So he only has one now, and that's what he's talking more Linus stuff. Which is
I
cool.
better start the mumble recording because we're already live on
the internet.
On the internet.
The intrawebs.
Who came up with interwebs? The only place I started hearing that on the ultra-conservative talk radio, and I'm going, why are we even accepting that?
Because it's a series of tubes, Moss.
Well, they used to call it the World Wide Web, didn't they? And then they started calling it the internet, so people started calling it the interwebs.
So Worldwide Net is next.
No,
Actually,
it's IPFS.
Yeah, I was going to say, there you go. You got it before I did. That's it. So we're going to have to come up with some clever, silly name for IPFS.
Yeah. Imps.
I have a coworker that no matter how many times he hears the word Kubernetes, he always says Kubernetics. I've quit trying to correct him because that's the way it is.
I've heard some weird pronunciation of Kubernetes.
Really?
Guys, we're all here. Can we start? Can we do our Audacity and
Tony
get going?
is in pain. Leo, you need to link that forums. You got the list, but it's not there as a link.
What?
Hey, if you got that recording, make that the like comical little opening bit because he listens to the show, and maybe we can change the way he says Kubernetes once and for all.
That's it. Kubernetes. You got to have the za at the end, though.
Yes.
The. Well, the reason is out of business, so we don't have any the reason to say it that way.
Aw. Pay your respects. Press F in the chat.
Right, everyone got Audacity up and running. Save
I'm
the
ready.
project.
Give me a minute. Got to run to the back. I'll be right there.
Okay.
Waiting on the Robert E. Leo.
Mm-hmm. Cool. It's first time we've had 6 of us for a while.
How's my volume today?
It's rather voluminous. It's fine,
High?
though.
Okay.
How's mine?
Hear you. Nice
Oh, it
and
sounds
clear.
good.
Okay, mine's right about 70%.
Mine's good too.
Yeah.
I leave mine exactly the same every episode, so hopefully it should be the same.
Well, I was asked to kind of tweak mine down a little bit, so I
Oh, okay.
dropped from like 63 to 56%.
I can hear you pretty good.
Well, the numbers seem kind of low to me, but
How's my volume at the moment?
Sounds good, Tony.
Good.
I think everyone's pretty much the same, for me at least.
Well, actually, for me, Joe is a little soft and Tony,
Yeah.
Josh is a little loud, but not a big difference, and Joe is usually a little soft.
that's not what she said.
Family friendly show.
I couldn't resist. I tried. It wasn't working.
You got to keep it down, Joe. Mom's in the other room. Yeah, I even have a new webcam that I won't need for this show.
Yeah, Moss, you need to make the Raspberry Pi webcam.
No. Because I already have a webcam and it was a lot cheaper than that.
That's true.
All right. Regular Leo is here.
Regular Leo.
Yay.
Well, if you're going to be irregular, go to the other room.
I am in the other room. That was the whole point.
Okay. Tony is itching to get us going. We do understand his needs.
Notice that this thing's missing out of the intro.
Oh, hey. I get to forget one thing every time, and that is it. That's the thing.
Just always a different thing.
Yeah, of course.
What have I been doing?
Tony has been trying not to hurt.
It's been a couple of weeks.
Oh, throw a Bo in there too. I haven't said anything about Bo. Bo, what did you do? Oh, I probably won't say that you got COVID in the thing.
Yeah.
How about Bo has been looking into cameras?
I was gonna say Bo survived COVID or Bo got COVID.
All right.
Bo's not dead.
Bo survived the pandemic. How about that?
But just put Bo's not dead.
Bo's not dead.
Yeah.
Hey, that's another good one. I'll let you guys
Not
decide.
dead yet.
Bo didn't die.
I like Bo survived the pandemic. That sounds like a children's book.
In the news, we talk RPi Pico. Is it Pico or Pico?
Pico.
I think it's Pico. Yeah, that's what
Are
I've
you
heard.
sure? Are you
Yeah.
sure? Because
It's a
isn't
good
it Pico
price.
in the metric system?
It's
No,
Pico.
it's Pico.
'Cause It's Pico.
Because
It's
all I
price,
Because
but
it's
you also
the-
have to.
It's the Greek letter, isn't it? Pico.
Oh,
Right.
I don't speak Greek, man.
It's a good price, but you also have to buy a hat to go along with it to get it to do anything, right?
No, you can solder wires and stuff onto it.
Every time I see Pico, I just think Pico de Gallo, and it's like, delicious.
Pico Rivera.
Or if if you're walking around outside, you get poked by a Pico, you get hit with one of the cactus splines or whatever you call it.
California's last Mexican governor was Pew Pico.
Ooh. Let me see.
Whenever you say Pico, I think of Nano, so.
Mm. Wasn't there a Nano
We'll go
Pi?
with that we. Finally, the feedback and a couple suggestions. Cool. Okay. All right. I think I might be ready. I guarantee you in the middle of the show, we're going to be like, oh, forgot to put that there. I'll have to redo that now. But I think I'm good now. Maybe, probably, maybe.
Okay, so show everyone flash up Audacity.
It's
Yep.
ready.
Ready to go.
And we'll do 3, 2, 1, record. And then 25 seconds.
You got to say it like that, though. Record.
Hold on
Record.
just 1 second. Paula, I know you're watching YouTube on your phone. Can you do it in the other room?
Got to get your pootie pie fixed somewhere else, girl.
Okay, we all ready to press the button in a minute?
I'm ready.
3, 2, 1, record.
No traffic anywhere.
No
It really
traffic
took-
at all.
It took
you
everything I
guys-
had to not laugh at that. I didn't know you were going to do it, and then you did it. Oh, man, that was good.
Okay. So 3, 2, 1, 0.
Yes.
3, 2, 1, 0.
Zero.
Wow.
Felt like we
Sounded
were on.
good.
Yeah, sounded good to me.
Oh wait. Okay, I knew I forgot something. I know what it is. Though.
Oh.
I can
Go
do
on.
it. I can SSH into.
Oh,
boy.
are you still
You didn't get the
remotely playing the
music.
sounds?
Listen, man, it works. Okay.
Our fans asked
I'll give
for
him
it.
a bit of leeway. We're only 2 minutes past 3, so
All right, but
A
I'm
little
ready
bit of-
with it.
A little bit of Leo way.
Leo way, yeah.
I think I'm ready with it, though, guys. Possibly. This, and let me do this, and let me do this right there, and then do this, and then this, and click this. Okay. I think I'm ready.
Okay, time to mute. Time to mute me mic.
Yay, verily.
Okay. Welcome to mintCast, the podcast by the Linux Mint community for all users of Linux. This is episode 353. This is episode 353.5. Livestream information is at mintcast.org/livestream. It might actually be right today, too. We're in the mintcast channel in IRC at irc.spotchat.org. If you see something that you'd like to hear about, tell us. Send us email at mintcast@mintcast.org. Join us live on YouTube. Post at the Mintcast subreddit. Chat with us on Telegram, Discord, Facebook, or post directly at mintcast.org. This is Leo, and with me today is Joe,
Hello.
Bo, Bo?
Oh, can you? I said, hey.
Hey! Tony Hughes,
Hi, guys.
Moss,
Yes, I am.
and Josh Hawk.
Hey guys.
We're recording on Sunday, January 24th, 2021. First up in our wanderings, I have second thoughts about Kubuntu. Moss has a new toy. Joe has been playing with watches. Tony's been editing audio. Josh hasn't broken Arch. And Bo survived the pandemic. Then our news. We talk RPi Pico. Ubuntu's booting on an Apple M1. Flatpak is faster. Project Linux turns into Alma Linux, and more. In our intersection, we say how we've got on with Linux Mint 20.1 over the past 2 weeks. And finally, the feedback and a couple of suggestions. As I mentioned a second ago, I'm having second thoughts about Kubuntu 2010. I'm still on it. I'm still using it. I really, really love Plasma, but there are just some things that I think are, I don't know, they're missing, I think. Something that I need to look into, I think, is whether or not the browsers have graphical acceleration by default. I use Brave a lot, as we'll talk about a little later on. And it's Chromium-based, and just like all the other Chromium-based browsers have GPU acceleration on by default. I don't notice it very much on my desktop, or I'm sorry, on my laptop, because my laptops, both the laptop itself and the screen I hook it up to are locked at 60 frames a second, or 60 hertz. So, you know, everything looks a little choppy after coming from a 144 hertz screen, right? But if I go to my desktop with the faster refresh rate, you notice that Kubuntu, I won't even say stutters, because it's not really stuttering. It just does not do 144 hertz on Chromium-based browsers. Firefox fares a little bit better. I have, Web Render All turned on to force graphical or GPU rendering on that. And that seems to do better. But when I run the test on, I think, how do you do it? It's like Brave : // GPU. You can do that with Chrome. You can do it with all the other Vivaldi, all the other ones, right? And it'll tell you, yeah, everything is hardware accelerated except this or maybe this or whatever. So, I mean, the main page is supposed to be hardware accelerated, but it's not. Or at least it doesn't feel like it is, because it's running at 60 hertz as opposed to 144, whereas the rest of the desktop is running at 144. So I don't know. However, I think I'll talk about this more in the what do you call that? The innards. Yeah, that part of the show that I do every 2 weeks, right? That I can't remember the name of. Linux Mint does it better. It does it right. I would assume GTK based desktops in general do it right. I have a feeling it's a Qt thing, but I don't know. More testing is required, but little things like that really kind of make me wonder. What else am I not getting the full benefit of? So, as I mentioned, though, the Brave browser, I'm doubling down on it. It is still my favorite Chromium-based browser, even though Edge now has what do you call those tabs on the vertical tabs? Yeah, if you've been using Edge and you notice that little squiggly arrow in the top left hand of your screen, that's vertical tabs. Edge does that now, along with Vivaldi and probably a couple others. I think Opera does it too. But Brave, and one of the big reasons that I'm sticking with Brave, was reminded to stick with Brave, is IPFS, and we'll talk about that more later. But a distributed web, a real, actual distributed web. That, if your website goes down, you still distributed web. So fantastic stuff there. And Brave, I think, does the internet right in the fact that by surfing around the internet, Brave has a basic ad blocker that will get rid of, kind of like AdBlock Plus, where it'll get rid of the egregious ads that are in your face and loud and stuff. But it will leave the quiet, in the corner, out of your face ads there. But on top of that, you'll get ads in the notification bar. Well, the ads in the notification bar that you get paid for that. They will pay you in a currency that they conjured up called the basic attention token. And each token is worth about a quarter, something like 25 cents or so. But it's actually not the easiest thing in the world to do, to extract those coins out of your browser, because you're not really meant to. What you're supposed to do with that is pay creators. You're supposed to take that 25 cents that you got and give it to your favorite YouTuber, or give it to someone that you enjoy their writing, or you enjoy, I don't know, like a podcast or something like that. You can just spend your money that way. And it solves this problem if everybody were to participate, right? It would solve the problem of, I make content, but I have to show you ads that circle everything and get annoying to the point that you don't want to come to my website anymore, or you are forced to install an ad blocker or something like that. But yet, the way that Brave does it, you still get paid, and the ads are not intrusive, and they don't have to be. The web does not have to be that way, and this is a really interesting take on that.
This is really interesting. So, can you walk through where does? Because I've used Brave and I know the back currency, but I didn't realize that's what it was actually. So where does the currency originate? Does Brave take money that would normally be paid out by the advertiser selling the advertising space, or how does?
As far as I know, that's kind of the deal where advertisers pay them, and then they convert a portion of that into BAT to pay you for looking at the ad. And seeing the ad and clicking on the ad generate two different amounts as well. So actually interacting with the ad will pay you more.
And you're not actually I guess it's possible, but it's really designed for you to use it towards contributing to
to other creators, to people on the web that you appreciate their content, and so you send them 5 BAT or something like that, which turns out to be about $1 and a quarter.
I really like the concept, man. That's really cool.
How do you know that they received the BAT?
You could go look at the blockchain that they have,
Okay.
but I think in general, Yeah, every transaction on any blockchain, except for the ones that are purposely obfuscated like Monero, you can go and verify that, wallet this gave wallet that this amount, and that will forever be look upable. There are websites that are dedicated to just looking up transactions, so you can go and verify if you so choose. But yeah, I mean, you could also just be like, "Hey, man, did you get my bat?" And then they'll be like, "Yeah."
There's no reason for them not to, give the basic attention token to the creator because they're making money from the transaction itself.
Yeah. There are transaction fees and all the other kind of stuff that
that makes
regular.
sense.
Yeah, so they get paid.
I just question all these things,
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, it's a good idea to do so. I mean, but it's a bit of a double dip, right? I mean, they get paid for showing you the ad, and then they get paid slightly, well, a lot less for the transaction fee. Because I mean, you're transferring $1, and they take a tiny percentage of that, probably like a penny or something to that effect.
Gotcha.
The only problem with that is I spend too much time on the internet as it is, and if I start watching loads of adverts, it's going to take longer.
Well, that's the thing. You don't even have to. You don't even have to do that to get paid. If it pops up, you get paid. You can ignore it. You can close it. You can even hide notifications in your operating system, right? The silent mode thing, but you'll still get paid. So you don't even have to touch the ads or even look at them to get paid.
Yeah, but you can't block them. You just need to leave them unblocked.
Well, I mean, you can block them. You just don't get paid for seeing them, or you don't get paid at all.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So you've got to have your ad blockers off.
Well, not necessarily, because what you can do in a case like that is turn your ad blockers on for everything, but the URLs that you're getting from Brave.
So do you have to have an account to store the bat, or does it just store it on the browser as you have it?
Yeah, you store it.
Wallet.
Well,
on the wallet.
The browser is the wallet.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah. So every browser that you spin up has its own wallet and its own bat amount, but you can tie up to 3 of them together if you sign up for an account. So it's
that doesn't sound good enough for me.
Why not?
I've got way too many distros installed, and each one would have a different browser. And if I can only tie 3 of them together, then I'm in trouble.
You'd have a lot of bat if you use them on all your distros, Moss.
Well, if you think about it, I mean, it's
I'm batty enough already, Josh.
Well, I mean, what you would do before you nuke and pave one of those distros is just send all your bat to one of your favorite creators and then nuke and pave. I mean,
right.
You don't have to tie everything together. You can still do it without, but tying everything together is a little more convenient.
Be able to send it to one of your other browsers too.
I think you can do that, but I think it's way more difficult, and you would have to tie it to an exchange to be able to do that. But because like I said, again, the whole point is to not keep it for yourself, though you can. It's to pay people so that they don't have to show you ads.
Now, I will say that I've been watching the price of BAT, and it has steadily risen over the last couple of months.
Except for this past week where Bitcoin lost $10,000 in value.
Well, surprisingly, BAT still has been, it's been bouncing up and down, but not as bad as a lot of the other alt currencies, and it has been mostly on the rise.
Yeah. I think that's good overall.
Oh, it's at 30 cents.
Oh, yeah, that's not too bad. Oh, okay, so it's a little more than 25 cents. Sweet.
Right. Last I checked, I don't have it brought up right now. It was at 30 cents, and that was a bit of a rise for it. So, yeah.
Nice. That's very cool. So I mean, one of the cool things is that this is a way to get cryptocurrency without ever having to actually play the game. And then, I mean, I don't know, if for some crazy reason BAT turns into $1 or $2 or $5 or whatever, hey, you get to ride that wave up. But also, if BAT crashes, hey, sorry about your BAT.
I also think this is just a really good use of cryptocurrency. Like it's not your normal get rich quick scheme that you hear. Right. Like this is like a practical use for it that seems to be doing some good in the world.
Yeah, this is buy some guy a coffee that you appreciated his video or something like that, right? And I mean, it is a communal currency, and I think that's the way that that's a good thing, at least. Yeah.
Leo, you said it's a bit tricky to get you get the money out of it if you wanted to. So how do creators get the money out of it?
So
they have an exchange.
Oh, what? Right. So when you become a Brave creator, you get a wallet.
And like you get a wallet that a full functioning wallet where you can but it's basically the same as the browser. You have to send it to an exchange, change it to Bitcoin or change it to US dollars or whatever you want to do with that BAT. I mean, you play the real cryptocurrency game at that point. But
Right.
as a user seeing the ads or whatever, I mean, you're dealing only in BAT and you never have to touch an exchange or anything like that.
Oh, cool.
I am not Batman.
But it makes it super easy. Crypto is hard in general. I mean, you tell someone, hey, all you got to do is go download a wallet and then your wallet address, and you got to add cryptocurrency, and you got to exchange, and you got to do this, and everybody's like, nope, I've got real money that is way simpler than that. No thanks. So
you do understand that PayPal is now functioning with Bitcoin.
Right, but again, I think PayPal still has that layer of obfuscation where it's like, well, you got to have a PayPal account, then you got to connect up your bank account, and then and then you ask the question, well, why can't I just use my bank account? Well, you can, but PayPal is not for that, and there's a whole conversation to be had, and it's all about being easy, and this makes it super easy, and you don't even have to even consider it cryptocurrency or feel like one of the Wall Street bros to use this. It's a simple way to pay folks a little bit of money for things that you think they deserve. Anyhow, last little bit is Flatpak PPA. I threatened Tony I was going to do it. I did do it. I'm on Flatpak 1.10. The last straw was I wanted to run the Chromium Flatpak. Turns out the Chromium Flatpak requires 1.8.5 or 6 or above. And if you don't have that, it's just like, hey, sorry, you can't run Chromium. I'm like, but I want to run Chromium. So my only option was to use the Flatpak PPA on Linux Mint to get it updated to the point where I could install Chromium. That is kind of weird. But hey, I'm on the latest version of Flatpak, so I get to enjoy all the cool features we'll tell you about here in a minute. Anyway, Joe, what about you?
Well, I had ordered some new parts for that Samsung Galaxy S3 Frontier watch so that I could fix some small issues with it, and only because I saw a really good price for a set of parts that would do the job, and it also came with a bunch of different armbands, which the $40 price tag, it was worth it to get the armbands and a different motherboard. It works well, and the rest of the parts make for almost a whole watch, considering the other board that I had purchased. And if I were to buy another battery, I would have basically another mostly functioning watch, except the step counter would be like 10% off, and yeah, that would be about it. The new motherboard that I got is actually a cellular version, but because of the limitations of eSIM that is included on the board, I can't get it to work with T-Mobile. It's not a big deal for me because I wasn't going to use it as a phone anyway. It was just something cool to contemplate. I also purchased some more neckband headphones to work on since I haven't done it in a while. I know I have 19 or so working headphones, but I found some on eBay that have noise canceling, and they're not the LG line, and I liked working on them. I wanted to see if I could do something with a new set of headphones that I normally do with the LGs. So I got some Anker sound cores, and I've worked on one of them so far. They're supposed to have a lot better battery life than the LGs, and having taken one apart, it was extremely tedious. It's glued together along a lot of the sections of it, and because of how it's shaped, you can't actually get to the tabs to pop the tabs off, little retention tabs on the inside. So you kind of have to break those tabs, and the glue makes it difficult to take it apart without bending the plastic. Keeping the physical condition good is really hard to do. It takes a bit of patience, and normally with glue like that, the thing to do is apply heat, but there's rubber on one side and then the plastic on the other side, and it would be really concerning to try and heat that up. I did have one that had a bad battery, but I decided to take that apart just to test how easy it is to take things apart instead of trying to replace the battery on it. And I found that taking it apart that far is nearly impossible without breaking something. It could be done, maybe, without breaking it, but I'm not going to be able to do that on a regular basis. I did find that I could take it apart far enough that I could get past where the cable normally breaks, and then I could splice in to there and make a working headset. All 5 headphones did get here. 2, like I said, the one Anchor had a bad battery, and I haven't worked on it yet, but there was a set of LG 1100s, the HBS 1100s in there that also has a bad battery. See if some of the other batteries that I have will work in it, and I don't think I'm going to do the mod on it like I did with the Anchors. Well, I really like how the fix. I've only done it on one set of headphones so far, and they're sitting right next to me right now. I made the MMCX cable this time instead of just buying an MMCX cable. I also purchased some MMCX cables because the other ones that I have, the ones that I've been using for a long time, the cable's gotten brittle and started falling apart, and some of them, one side's not working anymore, so I will be doing the replacement on those too. I had some end pieces that I had purchased from Amazon, the male MMCX, and I put those on some audio cables, wired them, spliced cables on the Anchor, and I have to say, with the one more triple driver headphones attached to the MMCX cable, they sound really good, a lot better than they did stock. And I haven't fully tested the longer battery life yet. That'll come probably tomorrow. But from what I've seen so far, even partial battery, it lasted a really long time, and I'm quite happy with it. I had some fun on the command line with the rename utility. I had some TV shows that were named in such a way that Plex thought it was just like one episode and 26 different versions over like 10 seasons worth of show. So I used the rename utility to do a bulk rename of the files, and it was super easy. And it was a lot quicker than renaming them one at a time. I honestly wouldn't mind doing a show on that, and maybe a show on SED as well. And I do have an example in the notes of how rename works, and it's just rename s/old name/new name/g, and then the files. But I've been told my show idea was entirely too nerdy, and so we're not going to do that.
Don't listen to the critics, Joe.
That is not what anybody said.
Yeah, that's exactly what Leo said.
It
That's
needs
what
to
Leo
be its
said.
own show because of how huge it is.
Leo told me that it was entirely too in-depth and too nerdy, and that we couldn't do it. That's what he said.
Yeah, you're right.
There. No.
You're right.
And you listen to Leo?
Nobody listens to me. Come on.
We do have to agree on a show topic before we, take one up. But maybe I'll be able to convince people. Surprisingly, I was able to pick up a refrigerator for free. Very, very nice refrigerator. It's probably the $1,500 or so refrigerator. My wife found it on Facebook Marketplace. Granted, it did cost me money to rent the truck and move it, but it was still a lot less than a new fridge would cost me, and I was planning on buying one this year for my wife. But the people that had it were moving and needed it gone as soon as possible. It is probably the nicest side-by-side fridge that I have ever owned. I can't complain. It works awesome, and it looks awesome. The only thing is I was the only person moving the thing, and I feel really lucky that I didn't hurt myself doing it. The thing is really heavy. We did have a close call where it like flopped over onto its side while I was moving it on the dolly, but did get it inside. Getting it in the truck was fun. Getting it out of the truck was more fun. Trying to move it up my lawn was exciting. Yeah, but
flagrant use of sarcasm font there.
Yep. It's all hooked up. Looks beautiful in my kitchen, and can't complain about a free refrigerator, especially one that nice. Because of recent changes in my insurance, the copay for prescriptions has gone up a lot, like 4 times as much. To the point that I don't know how much money I'm going to be able to put towards projects this year. All that means for me is that I will be forced to go through my backlog of old projects or almost projects and get it all up to date. Maybe I will have to switch a bit more towards software again. And it's been a while since I did programming, so that should actually be fun. My eldest child, still short, turned 18 this week, and that is like really, really weird for me. I have a child that is no longer a child. Yeah. On my VM download server, I was still having problems with transmission RSS, so I attempted to downgrade the Ruby version so that it would work properly again. I tried several different methods and nothing would really work. And it failed miserably, honestly. I've found multiple different ways that were supposed to work on the internet on how to downgrade your Ruby version and just couldn't get anything to work. And then I realized that the reason I was using transmission RSS initially was because that it was available in a Docker. So I shut down the transmission setup entirely and moved everything over to qBittorrent, which allowed me to reset up all my former automation so that the files automatically go where I want them. I do like UI for qBittorrent, and it's very robust in how it lets you pick where files are moved after they're done downloading. And this worked perfectly for the cron jobs that I had previously set up to automatically move the files outside of their isolated area and into the different places where they needed to go from my Plex server. So I'm very happy with that current setup. And that's really all I've been doing lately is, messing around with Linux and, well, the usual lifting weights. Moss, what have you been up to?
Well, thanks for asking, Joe. Joshua Hawk sent me a laptop, a Dell Inspiron 7353 2-in-1 with touchscreen. He had installed Fedora on it, which I soon destroyed, and I run a carousel of distros on it to Pop! OS, Bodhi 5.1, back to Fedora, and back to Bodhi. I'm currently running Mint 20.1 on it. There are interesting touchpad issues. In Fedora, the touchpad right-click sends a left-click, but it works fine in Bodhi. But in Bodhi, it doesn't load the screen keyboard. But this is a great addition to my collection, and as it only has a 128 gigabyte SSD and a lot of screws keeping me from being brave enough to replace the SSD, this will be my machine to test distros for Distro Hoppers Digest in the foreseeable future. Speaking of Distro Hoppers Digest, episode 19 is out. Episodes 15 through 18 are also in the top 5 of our download numbers. For episode 19, we actually have Dale in the header and footer readings. We had a great time. I get the idea we could banter a bit more, but we're still getting our team feet underneath us. My sponsors account now has 3 monthly sponsors and has also taken in a nice donation. You can hear them named at the end of the current episode of Distro Hopper's Digest.
Woohoo!
My recording and workspace is in flux right now. There really was a short on the sound card in the Mini, and contacting that is what blew the power supply a few months ago. It's not catastrophic, but not something that I want to have on a system I'm doing sound recording on, and I'll be moving that along to someone who needs it. Dale has sent me an AMD sound card. It hasn't been received yet, but it's on the way, which will replace the FX1800 NVIDIA card in the Fuzz Z400, which will take over as my main machine. Right now I'm recording on my Kudu laptop, still the most powerful machine I have. Bo, you're pinking me out there. School is in and out, depending on the week and the school. I worked 4 days in the last 2 weeks and got paid for a fifth when they scheduled me and forgot to cancel it because there wasn't school. There weren't any students that day. My other business is poised to take off, and we plan to sell a lot of common products and donate 80% of our profits to projects providing housing funds and services to homeless people in America. I'll post the link when we're actually doing business. I'm sure some of y'all will want to help out on that. My teeth are not working yet. I'm running without them for this show. I have an appointment next week for a refilling. They cut into my cheeks. They don't fit right. The lowers, my tongue is in the way, or they're in the way of my tongue, actually. And I need to talk to them a lot about that, but I already have an appointment for this coming week. We're more than halfway through White Knight, the 9th book in the Dresden Files series. I've also been reading Grail and Cosmos, Arthurian Explorations by Albie Stone. Portions of this book were previously published by my friend Bob Trubshaw of Heart of Albion Press. Everything Bob publishes is worth reading if you're interested in the roots of folklore, especially English folklore, and much of it is available as free downloads from his website. There's a link in the show notes. I saved this for last because I didn't think I'd get through the rest of it if I started with it. My mother has passed of COVID pneumonia, which she caught in the rehab facility. She was 91. I miss her. When I come home after having something happen at work I want to talk to her about, I reach for the phone and remember I can't call. So on that somber note, let me pass off to Tony Hughes.
Thanks, Moss. Our thoughts are with you. So, as Moss said, we recorded the latest Distro Hoppers this week, which I published on Saturday, 23rd, after doing the edit. And that includes a new intro with Dale as part of the team. It was a great show, if I do say so myself, although we continue to strive to get better. Mint 20.1 is firmly established on my laptop, although I continue with 19.3 as my main driver on the i7 HP Tower, which is my main production PC.
Oh, come on. Just hit the upgrade button. Go real fast.
No, it
do it right now.
Work.
Do it live on the
show.
You don't need to back up first. Trust the process.
No, I'll have to do a lot of tweaking. As I'm about to say, I have got access to 20 Mint 20 install on one of the drives in the Icy dock, so I will upgrade to 20.1 as my main driver at some stage. But as Clem keeps telling us, if it works, maybe leave it alone. You know,
that's true. You still have like 3 years of support on 19.
And the other thing is, now with flat packs and snaps and app images, if there's anything essential that I need the update for, I can just go and grab it.
True.
You know, and run
Very
it.
True.
Run it in a container on an old OS. So what's the point?
You could even add the new Flatpak PPA so you can get 1.10 and enjoy the fast download speeds.
Yeah, correct. So yeah. So I bought, as far as modelling goes, I've bought some storage racks with 32 boxes in them for putting spares and components for all the die-cast models I restore. So I've been busy filling them up and labelling them this week. With the result, my workshop is a little tidier and I can actually find what I'm looking for. And we have mentioned COVID, but on the home front, the COVID situation here continues to get worse. And by the time you hear this, we'll have passed the 100,000 deaths with COVID here in the UK. It may mean we're going to go into stricter restrictions before this is all over. A couple of days ago, the Netherlands introduced a curfew from 9 p.m. to 4:30 a.m. to try and stop some of the abuses of the current regulations. And we're continuing to hear stories of people gathering in large groups and illegal raves and illegal wedding parties and all sorts of stuff, which is not helping things. We may see that happen here yet. But that's me for this week. So I'm going to hand over to Josh.
Thanks, Tony. Well, Arch was still working, and now it's not.
Oh, what? Did you make me lie?
I did.
Oh, no.
Did it
What do you
break
mean,
during the show?
Arch crash?
No,
Oh, man.
Surprise,
it didn't break.
surprise.
It didn't
It's
break during
Joe's
the
fault.
show. It was. I don't know whose fault it was really. If it was me or the computer.
Then it's Joe's fault.
Right. So I'll just blame Joe. But no, I tried to install Linux Mint as a dual boot with it. Now, I don't know if this was the reason why it broke or not. And the reason I say that is because I hit F12 to get into the boot menu, and Arch wasn't even there the first time I did it to actually get into Linux Mint to install it. So I don't know why that happened. But then I installed Linux Mint, and Arch popped up in Grub, so I'm like, oh, okay, it must still be there. So I selected it. No boot, just a black screen. Nothing on the screen. It's just totally black. So I'm like, okay, well, I will boot into Mint. So I did that, and I looked through the hard drive, and everything's there. Nothing was changed. I looked in the boot. All the boot stuff was still there as it was. Nothing was changed. So I have no idea why it won't boot. I installed Mint the default way, where I said let's install alongside Arch. I did that, so that's probably why it shows up in the Grub menu for Linux Mint. But yeah, I have no idea what happened. So anyway, long story short, I wiped Mint, installed OpenSUSE Tumbleweed. It's still there in the Grub on that. Won't boot still. And that's all the further I've gotten. I haven't gotten a chance to look to fix it yet because I don't have an Arch disk at the moment, or USB.
When you installed Arch, did you go through the process of setting up the EFI
Yes.
boot process? Okay.
I specifically did that because I only use EFI on everything.
Okay. I'm trying to think.
Right.
That's just the first thing I thought of.
That's the first thing I checked, was to see if the EFI was still there and everything, and it was everything's there as it was supposed to be.
Could Grub have broken that though?
I'm thinking maybe that's the only thing that it could be at this point, because the install is there. I'm sure if I went into my my Arch USB and I reinstalled Grub with that, I bet you it would work. But I'm not sure.
Possibly without Mint.
Right. Probably without Mint. Probably, unless I installed what is that, OS Prober or something like that, and then it'll search for the other OSs.
Well, there's also Refind. You could just chuck that on there.
I could try that. I didn't even think about that, but yeah. So yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna do with it yet.
Well, what is Arch without some adversity, right?
Exactly. This is all learning experience.
There is some truth to that. I mean, I don't feel like you install Arch because you're not the type of person that likes solving these types of problems.
Right, exactly. I knew something was going to happen eventually. I just knew it because I've been installing, like, from the AUR. I've been doing all the stuff you're not supposed to do to try to break this thing. And
I AUR the crap out of my desktop. I don't check anything. I just let it install.
Yep, and I have it for automatic updates on the AUR and everything. So yeah, I was just waiting for it to break, but I know this isn't that because it was working perfectly fine the last time I used it. I didn't do any updates or anything. I actually checked for updates and there was none, surprisingly. But and I shut it off and then I turned it back on, installed Mint, and well, actually before I even installed Mint, like I said, I pressed F12 and it wasn't there. It wasn't even in the boot menu when I pressed F12, so I have no idea what that was about. So I truthfully don't know if Mint actually is what broke it. But anyway,
you know in your heart that Mint didn't break it.
I know for sure Mint didn't break it. Mint doesn't break anything. Mint only fixes everything.
Hey, man, that's very true.
Hey, no, that is really true because I've used Mint to fix a lot of different problems I've had. Either it be the USB or just installing it. But yeah, I know OpenSUSE is like the worst for support with. I mean, I'm sure I'm going to get flack for this, but it's the worst for support with other OSs as far as I've seen. I've tried it many times and it's been an issue, but yeah, it was there though, so I don't know. But anyway, I will try fixing that later on when I get time. So I've been playing a lot of games other than that before school starts because I feel like I need to get that in because once school starts, I will not have time. Yeah, I finally, after 7 years of playing this game, I beat Dragon Age Inquisition. And yeah, it's a long time. I stopped playing it for a while and then I started and I stopped and now I finally said, I'm going to beat this game because I'm getting too many things in my feed that are going to ruin the ending for me. So I finally beat that. And then I was playing also Kingdom Come Deliverance. I'm not going to get into all of it because this is not a gaming podcast, but I figured I might as well mention it because I was doing it. No, it was not on Linux, unfortunately.
Bam! You're out of here. You're done.
Yeah, I know. I might as well be. But I know Kingdom Come Deliverance will not play on Linux as well as it can. I haven't tried what Hoosie said was to change the kernel out for another kernel. I forget exactly which one it was.
The TKG one, maybe?
No, it was a different name.
Okay.
But anyway, he said he used it and he's been getting at Windows performance or better. So I want to try that definitely because if I can do that, then I can ditch Windows for sure.
Might have been the Zen kernel.
No, it's not the Zen kernel either because I looked it up and it was not related to the Zen kernel. It was some other, I don't know, I can't remember. I wish I would remember, but I'll have to ask him.
Hey, so quick question. Your classes start in February?
No. So, okay. This year they're starting late because of COVID.
Oh, got it. Okay, I was going to say, because I've been teaching since the 11th. What?
Yeah, no, they start tomorrow. That's the reason why it was COVID. Even though we're online, which doesn't make sense, we're starting tomorrow. I don't know, whatever.
We still have some schools that aren't open in my county. Some of them opened 2 weeks ago. Some open this week, and I think Bean Station will open next week.
Yeah, nothing.
2022 will be better, guys. Let's just look forward to that.
2022. Yeah, let's face it. We all knew 2021 wasn't going to be totally better yet.
When you wake up, you don't have to wonder what the president tweeted overnight.
Okay, so yeah, so my class this semester, I'm only taking one because this online thing is hard. It's a networking class, and I'm hoping I can remember what I learned in my first networking class because this is technically a 200 level course and I already took the 100 level course. So I'm hoping I can remember everything. I'm sure it'll come back to me. YouTube is my friend. I've learned that.
Here's what you do. Linux Innards becomes a deep dive into networking topics, and we can all just banter about all that.
I'll just read the chapter title, not read the chapter, and tell you what it was about.
Oh yeah,
what the chapter title was, and then we'll just go off of that, and I won't need to read.
Do it. I'm totally down. What do you want to do? IPv6 subnetting or something like that? Please don't. Please don't.
I don't think we're getting that deep.
Oh man. Well, yeah, no.
In my IT history, in my IT learning history, networking was the thing that like I didn't realize how much about it I didn't know. Like that was my Dunning-Kruger moment. It was that.
Yeah. That's how I felt too when I took the first class. I was like, "Holy crap! I thought it was just connecting to the internet with Wi-Fi."
Yeah. Like I really felt like I had a grasp on it, and then I started getting around people that like
Yep.
really understood like really deep networking concepts, and I was just like, "This is wizardry." Like I have no
Yeah.
clue.
like the guy who teaches
when-
this class. Sorry, what?
No, I was just gonna say when they shrug at you and say, "I don't know, what does your routing table say?" and you're like,
No, but the guy who teaches this class, he makes us learn. I don't think he's doing it in this class. I've looked, but before he's made us learn binary, not fully, but like a little bit of it, just to
Ugh.
understand what it is. You know, like
I feel
that's
like-
how.
I feel like when you get into subnetting, man, it's such a waste of time to do binary conversions. There's
Yeah.
no point. There's no point
Not-
to
not
doing
anymore.
that. You just need to figure out how big the subnet is and just move on. And
Yep.
move on. So
But
yeah,
Are we
he-
going
he
back
did
to
it.
the Kobayashi Maru here?
Yes.
It is. Yeah.
No, so anyway, yeah, so that's starting tomorrow. Yay. Technically I could start today, but I'm just gonna do it tomorrow. Anyway, yeah, so I got a new mouse. I did have a Red Dragon M901, which was great. I had that for over 5 years. I'm not exactly sure how long. It could have been 8 years, but I wasn't sure. I have to look when I bought it. But I love that thing. That thing was awesome. But then the left mouse button started going wonky on me. It wouldn't click right, and sometimes it wouldn't hold. Like if I was dragging a window around, it would leave the window go halfway through. And so I decided it's probably time for a new mouse.
20 minutes with a soldering iron.
Yeah, probably, but I needed a new mouse at that point. I didn't have time to fix it, and I don't really know how to solder that well. If I did, I probably would get into it. It's still here, so I'm
Well,
not going to.
now that you have a new mouse, what's it hurt to go in and try and fix the other one? But
That
you
sounds
will
like a
have to purchase a switch. Place that
Yeah.
left switch.
Yeah, probably. But well, to replace that mouse, I got another Red Dragon mouse. It's the M913. It was a wireless mouse, and I liked the way it felt, but literally 2 days after I got it, the left button started sticking, and it was like you couldn't even tell when you pressed the mouse button. It would click, but it wouldn't. You couldn't feel the click. It just felt like mush. So I was like, if it's already starting to do this, I'm not gonna keep this mouse. So I returned that one, and then I was looking around, did a lot of research, and I finally ended up getting the Corsair Scimitar Elite. 12 side buttons like the rest of them do, but these 12 side buttons are actually adjustable. The whole panel that the 12 buttons are on can go back and forth, so you can, for different hand sizes, you can adjust it, which is really nice for me because apparently my hand is huge, because everyone said that this mouse is like for people with big hands, and my hand goes way over the mouse. Like I can fit the whole mouse in my hand, so I guess I have large hands. I don't know.
You know what they say about guys with large
I was
hands?
waiting.
They can fit the whole mouse in their hand. That's totally what they say.
I was waiting. But anyway, so this is the first mouse that I've had that can actually do macros, which is really nice. Like I never knew how great having a macros are until I actually had a mouse that can do it. And I haven't set them all up yet, but I have a couple for my games, and wow, has it changed my gaming experience. It's great. It's just easy enough to just hit one button, and then it does 3 different mouse click or keyboard clicks or whatever you would do, and you're done, and you can do your spell or whatever you're doing in the game. And I mean, if you're a video editor or an audio editor, you can do macros for that even. Unfortunately, there's no way to set the macros in Linux. As far as I've found yet, I did look a little bit, and there's ways to set the RGB and stuff like that, but no way to set the macros on it. So
Build
there
your
are.
own.
What was that?
Build your own.
Build my own. Yeah.
Shortcuts are for.
You're gonna make me a builder yet. Repair. But anyway, there are 3 profiles on the mouse that you can save your macros to, and then you can switch with 2 buttons on the mouse back and forth between those profiles. So you can use it on any OS at that point. So yeah, that's basically all it really needs to be able to work on Linux. And yeah, so if anyone's looking for a good mouse with side buttons for MMO gaming or macros or anything like that, this is definitely a good mouse for that. Okay, so that's about it. So how about you, Bo? What you been up to?
Oh man, well the big thing in my house this week has been COVID. I heard it affected everybody else's stories this week somehow was affected by COVID. But before we move on from your mouse, one, I always have to have the buttons on the side of the mouse like the MMO style, because that's basically all I play is MMOs. I couldn't even imagine trying to play an MMO without that type of mouse.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But another, like, I kind of have a little bit of a funny story. A long time ago, like it was like when I built my first PC, I was playing Counter-Strike. It might have been Source, but it might have been the one before that even. And I had a mouse that had a macro system, and I'd never used it before. I opened the macro recorder up and was like playing around with it, and I was like, oh, I can't figure out how this works. I'm just gonna
VAC ban.
Oh yeah, the VAC ban. And I'm like, screw it. I'm just not gonna try this out. I'm not gonna do the macro thing. And so I just ignored it. I never used that feature. Well, I'm playing Counter-Strike, and I'm like, probably smoking mid or whatever you do in Counter-Strike, and then all of a sudden the menu opens up and just exits the game. And I was like, what the hell? Like I didn't do that. Like, well, how did that happen? And then then later on I was playing the game again, and I was doing something, and the menu opens up and just exits the game. And I was like checking my antivirus. I'm like trying to figure out what the heck happened. Like my computer must be like hacked, or somebody's got control of my PC. Like if someone's remoted into my machine, what could be happening? And like I'm doing other things. Like I have my web browser open, and then menus start opening and things pop up. And finally I figured out that when I had opened that macro menu, I started recording, and then decided not to do it, and then just started doing things. And I made a macro on my mouse that was just like opening random menus and clicking and clicking buttons.
I guess that's why when I got this one, that they didn't set anything up. Like there, literally, you can press any button and it wouldn't do anything. So that I guess that's why.
You're a true hacker when you hack yourself.
Yeah, I hacked myself. Yeah. Oh man, but no, I haven't been doing much of anything the last 2 weeks. I just my wife and I just got over COVID, being COVID positive. I wanted to talk about it a little bit on the podcast. Just I don't know if it's sort of an awareness thing, but like I wanted to say, like, I understand how people, especially in the beginning before we really knew all the details, and we still don't know all the details about COVID, but I could definitely see how like you could have it and not realize you had it, because if this wasn't going on in the world right now, I wouldn't have known to get a COVID test because my symptoms were so mild. And so I could definitely see how there could be people out there even now that don't realize that they're positive. So I think it's important to get tested for sure, for that reason.
Always a good idea.
And we're not even sure. So my wife got it first. The odd thing is we got tested twice in 1 week because it was a job requirement. It had nothing to do with symptoms or anything like that. And it was negative for both me and my wife. Both tests for me were negative. We had to get them twice, and both times they were negative. And then when my wife got her second test, it was positive, but we'd not been anywhere. I asked my wife if she'd been anywhere. We'd not really been anywhere since the first test. So we were like, well, how the heck we were just sitting at home? How did we get it? But then when you really start thinking about the places, like you say you've not been anywhere, but then when you really start tracing your steps, you're like, well, I did have to go to Walmart and go in and get like a can of something, and then but all I did was go in and grab that and leave. I didn't touch anything or interact with anybody else. And then even when my wife's telling me this story, I'm thinking, but you came home with more than just that can. You had to go to other places in the store. So it's like, it's really hard to kind of trace what happened. And I think that
She did the whole grocery store shuffle, right? Where you go around the edges and then hit the aisles in between and kind of.
Yeah, the way everything's at Walmart, where it's like everything's like you go in to get enough stuff to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and you end up in 4 different places in the store to get all the pieces to what you need. It's like a game of Resident Evil trying to put together one dish in a Walmart grocery section. So yeah, I don't know. We don't know exactly what happened, but whenever she tested positive, even that time I was negative, and I didn't have any symptoms yet. But we knew inevitably, if she's got it, if this is really as contagious as they say it is, there's no way I'm going to go without getting it. So, I had already started working home work and that sort of thing, and then I started getting like sort of a scratchiness in the back of my throat, but it wasn't it wasn't alarming. Like it wasn't like, oh God, something's wrong. It was just sort of like a sinus kind of thing. Like I just felt like I had drainage. Maybe I slept with my mouth open because my nose was stopped up. It was that sort of scratchy throat. And then the next day I was talking to my dad on the phone, telling him about it. And while I was speaking to him, he pointed out that like I couldn't complete a sentence without clearing my throat. Like I was constantly clearing my throat. And so that's when I started thinking like, yeah, maybe this is it. Maybe this is what it feels like. And so I went and got another test, and sure enough, I was positive. I would say the worst of the symptoms, like, I've heard people talk about achiness and fevers. I never ran a fever. My wife ran a fever one night. I never ran a fever. The worst symptom was probably, you know how your skin kind of feels sensitive whenever you have the flu? I kind of had that. Occasionally it would kind of spur up. Like there would be moments where I'd feel like, ooh, my skin feels sensitive and kind of chilly. But it wasn't as bad as the flu. Like whenever I've had the flu in the past, and those symptoms were much stronger and much worse. So, yeah, I just say all that to say, like, be careful, because there's people, there was some other family members on my wife's side of the family that got it a lot worse, that actually had to be hospitalized. And so you don't really know how it's going to react to you. But even if you're somebody that, you feel like you might have like very mild symptoms, take it seriously. Like try to look into it, find out if you got it. I know it's different depending on where you live in the country, but here where I am, it was really easy to get a test. I basically just called a doctor's office, and they sent me a referral, and within the same day I was able to go get a test. I've heard nightmares of people having to wait, long periods of time to finally get a test. I think my father-in-law had to wait like 3 or 4 days. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, the county I live in, you have to make an appointment to get it, and it's not instant, and it's like they don't really want you to get the appointment. I don't know. I taught third graders twice in the last 2 weeks, and you'd think that's exposure, but apparently the vaccine schedule for Tennessee is on a county by county basis, and it's not going to be till February or March that I will be eligible as a school teacher to get the vaccine.
Yeah, my wife's in that boat too. She's a school teacher, and she's not getting it till late then too. But yeah, anyway, luckily I didn't have bad symptoms. It wasn't bad at all. I had to work from home. That was harder than dealing with the symptoms. I did have like a little bit of a breathing thing. So like, last night I streamed a card game with a friend of mine, and I listened back to it this morning, and I could tell that I was breathing heavier. Like it sounded different. And so I think I still may be kind of breathing differently than I realize. I don't know, but on paper, it sounds like flu symptoms, but I can just see, having experienced both, it didn't feel like flu symptoms. I understand why people are saying it's flu-like symptoms, because when you see it on paper, that's what it is, but it didn't feel the same. So I'm just saying, if you feel different, go get it checked out. But
great advice.
Yeah, but moving on from that, I have some projects coming up that I want to do to talk about on the show. They're both Raspberry Pi related. I'll give you guys a little brief tour of them right now, and then we'll move on to news. But hopefully they go well, and then I can talk about them in detail on the next episode. But first off, I want to do a Raspberry Pi webcam. I have been trying to stream more on YouTube lately, doing some of the tabletop RPG games that I've been doing on my YouTube channel, and now I want to do some card games and just different things. And I have a DSLR, and I have a mount for it, and I have it so I can hook it up and use it as a webcam, but I can never get it to work quite right with like OBS, and if I connect it to OBS, then I have this thing where I have to either flip the camera, or I can't hide all the like little reticles in the camera. I have to like record at the same time in order to get those to go away. And so it's a real annoyance to try to use a DSLR. And I have a C9 910 because I got it before the 920, and it's great, but it doesn't have it doesn't have like a depth perception. Like it just, like whatever's there, it catches it, and there's no depth of field. And so I've been looking at this Raspberry Pi webcam project. In the show notes, I have a link to a YouTube video, and I've got a link to all the parts that he uses in this video, as well as his GitHub project. But this is his GitHub name is Gearling Guy, and his YouTube channel. Let me check his YouTube channel real quick. His name. Jeff Gearling. I've watched his channel a lot because he also does a lot of Ansible videos, and they're really instructional. I've gotten a lot of good out of those. But in this video, he basically walks you through building a Raspberry Pi webcam using the Raspberry Pi Zero. Although I've also seen other YouTubers that have done the Raspberry Pi 4 with this same process, and I may go the 4 route. I want to do some research to see what the performance, if there's a performance difference at all. Maybe there's none. And you can actually hook up a mount to the Raspberry Pi that mounts a small lens, like an adjustable lens, so that you can actually adjust it and get a depth of field feel the way you would with a DSLR, but with a more plug-and-play style webcam.
I think we're going to have to do another Pi show.
Yeah.
Sounds
Actually,
good to me.
get into depth on this.
Well, I see your next quick little topic there, and yeah, I want to do that too.
Yeah, my next topic, and this one, I actually had some parts come in for this today, right before we started the show. I got an Amazon delivery, but I want to make a Steam Link Raspberry Pi 4. So my situation with that is my son likes watching me play games, but I only play games on the PC, and he can't figure out using the keyboard. It's just he's only 2.5. So I ordered some USB controllers, and I was thinking I should build something where we can actually play my Steam games on our television. And so I'm going to build a Steam Link Raspberry Pi 4, for the TV in our playroom. But I didn't realize this until right now as I'm speaking. But if we do that, if he's in that room playing games with my wife, I can't be in this room using my PC. So I don't know. I still got to think about this. Maybe I'll do an emulator instead. I don't know.
Just need to build a whole nother PC that just got to give in
for
now.
the Steam.
Just for him. Link. Yeah.
Yeah. So I got 2 Raspberry Pi projects coming up. Coming out of this COVID hiatus. Like really kicking in the doors on Raspberry Pi projects. When we've done them in the past, I've never been able to think of anything I wanted to do with one. I've always loved Raspberry Pis. I've owned 2, and I've given them both away because I could never come up with something like really useful. Even though I see stuff all the time, it's never anything that really interests me. But this webcam thing like really really piqued my interest as something that I could use. And then, my son only being 2 years old, most of the time whenever I saw these Raspberry Pi projects for making game emulators and Steam boxes and things like that, I really had no use for it. But now that he's getting old enough to try some of this out, I have a little more excuse to do some of those gaming projects.
Nice.
For him, you should probably, let him experience some older games and set up a MAME. You already have the USB controllers.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think I will. I think I'll probably, it's a Raspberry Pi 4, which is way overkill compared to those original Raspberry Pi MAMEs that they had. So,
well,
dude,
this
you
is
gotta
how I do
remember.
my daughter. I have Batacera running, and she's really into Sunset Riders and on Super. and what is it? Ninja Turtles in Time, I think.
Oh my
And
god, I
she's-
love Turtles in Time. Me and
Oh,
my
man,
stepbrother destroyed that game.
Yes, she loves those two. Anytime we ever play that, it's those. Maybe this other weird game where you're like this dude throwing hammers and jumping over rocks. I can't remember what the name of that game is. Adventure Island or something, maybe. Yeah.
Well, you got to remember that with like the Raspberry Pi 3 and the Raspberry Pi 4, there's been a lot more time to make optimizations for the Raspberry Pi 3 than there has been for the 4. And not
That's
only
true.
that, but all the optimizations that worked on the 2 and the 1 work on the 3, but they don't work on the 4. So when it comes to emulation like that, it's 90% of it on it being good is the optimizations and people making things work the way that they're supposed to. So a Raspberry Pi 3 might do something like N64 a little bit better until the optimizations are there for the Raspberry Pi 4.
That's a really good point because it's not a technological limitation to playing these old games. It's you're right. It's the adjustment, the tweaking that they've done in the way it runs to make it feel more natural. That's a really good point. But
So-
yeah, that's all I got as far as what I've been
Bo,
doing and what I
before
plan to do.
Before you leave, how do you plan on doing the Steam Link? Do you want to do you think you want to do an install of Raspbian and then install Steam and do it that way, or is there a way to get like the Steam OS actually on the Raspberry Pi 4? Because I've done it before on my Raspberry Pi 3B. With I just installed Raspbian and then I installed Steam on it.
Right. That's my plan is the Raspbian and then Steam. And I have a link to a video also in the show notes of somebody following that process. But you can do either. It is possible to do this just the Steam OS. But I think I'm going to do Raspbian and then install the there's a Steam Link application that actually has like a more like TV friendly UI. So I think that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, that's what I did. I was just wondering what we were planning on.
All right. Well, I guess that'll do it then. So then we'll head down to the news. In the news, I'm out. I'm going to immediately hand it over to Tony.
Well, the reason I put this one in is because it's part of my New Year predictions that the Raspberry Pi Foundation might release a new board.
Tony's
And they
already
have.
winning. Already.
The Raspberry Pi Pico's been launched. It's not a full computer. It's not a single board computer. It's a little microcontroller costing $4, but it's a new Raspberry Pi board.
So they're encroaching on Arduino space.
They are, and yeah, it's quite cool. I think the main call for this is going to be embedded stuff, where you need something lightweight, and you maybe only need a couple of connections to the input-output. And weight is a real issue. I think this will play good, but. It's a lot smaller than obviously the main Raspberry Pi. I'm not sure how much smaller it is than the Pi
Honestly,
Zero, but it is quite a bit. Go on.
It looks like the Teensy 2.0, and I wonder if you could just use that as a USB controller for like building your own keyboards and stuff. I assume you can, since you said it's similar to. What was it? The
Arduino.
Arduino, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's got IC2 on it. So yeah, I would imagine you could.
Yeah.
But there's if you go to the link in the show notes, there's a link to Hackspace magazine, and they did a full write-up on it this month. And you can download the PDF of that for free. It's a Raspberry Pi publication, and as with the Magpie magazine, it's released under Creative Commons, so you can download a free PDF of the magazine. Check that out.
I have to wonder if it has the same pinout as the Teensy, because that would be awesome. Because then you
all
could
the
just like
pinout stuff is in the Hackspace magazine. If you check that out,
because then it would be really easy to set it up as a USB controller.
in
I'm
fact, I've
looking
got the
for
magazine
one.
on my desktop. I think it's at the end of the magazine. There's a full schematics of all the pins and everything. Yeah, if you go to second to last page, there's a full schematic in the Hackspace magazine with all the pinouts and everything.
Actually, looking for something to use as a USB controller for the arcade machine that I'm building.
As well as the Foundation releasing their own version of the board, they've also licensed the chip to other people to use. So they're actually selling the Raspberry Pi chip that's on the microcontroller to other manufacturers, so that they can produce their own stuff. And I know Pi Moroni and Pi Hut are producing a couple of things, so check them out as well.
Nice. And I don't know who put this in here, but this is really interesting. Android 10 to RISC-V architecture. This is cool. So real, actual ARM-based portable something or another Android this or that Play Store, right? What?
That was actually from Eric the Unready, so you should know where that came from.
No, I don't. So this is cool though. If you take a look at the link, you can see that there is a screen sitting on top of a board, and I mean they're going through and showing you, clicking all the different Android stuff, and just showing you the fact that, well, yeah, it works. The thing that they're using is a dual core T-head Xuan TA whatever C910 at 1.2 gigahertz. So a dual core chip. And it looks like it's running Android fairly decently. But then again, I guess I don't really know. They're not running any apps on it or anything like that. Just showing you that it does indeed boot, running kernel 5.4.57. You know, just interesting stuff. And Wi-Fi seems to work. So this is really interesting. This is more hardware enablement for Android in general. So this is interesting stuff. Well, speaking of enablement, yeah, here you go, naysayers. For everybody that was shaking their head when I brought up the topic the first time, the Apple M1 running on, or Ubuntu, or any Linux really, running on an M1 Mac. They said it couldn't be done. Those that said it could be done said that it wouldn't be done until 2022 or 2023 or sometime in the future, by the time the M2 came out, the M3, M4. Nope. How about today? It works today.
So you can have Ubuntu with 20 hours battery life.
No, not that battery life. There's no, there are no optimizations for that battery just yet. But here's the thing. Ubuntu actually boots on the M1 Max. So now at this point, it's just refinement. So it's working toward getting that 20. I don't think we'll ever get that much battery life. But here's the thing, though. You're still going to get better battery life than the most expensive XPS you can put your hands on. That, I think, is impressive. Very impressive. So, yeah, I mean, if you click on the link that we've got in the show notes, you can see that, let me see, the gentleman that got it done, who is one of the leaders of, wait for it, Corellium. They're working on the same thing that Asahi Linux is working on, and yeah, they've got Groovy Gorilla running on the Mac M1, just the desktop set-top box one, not the laptop just yet, but that's coming. And that's not it. Their Asahi Linux's new target, or at least one of their main targets right now, is reverse engineering the GPU. So currently, Ubuntu running on the M1 Mac is using software rendering only, so they haven't figured out exactly how to use the GPU just yet. But Alyssa Rosenzweig, I think I pronounced that correctly, who's done a lot of GPU work for the Panfrost driver, which runs the Mali and Bifrost GPUs in a lot of the ARM-based devices. is now turning her attention to the GPU. So I figure if you do it once, you can do it again. As Hector Martin proved, if you can reverse engineer one device, you can reverse engineer another. And yeah, so we're seeing a lot of progress in that realm, and that's exciting. So I did look into the pricing of all of this, right? Because everybody's like, oh, well, Mac is so expensive. You don't want to ever do any of the blah, 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 right? Yeah, I mean, if you're looking for an equivalent XPS, they're about $50 different. You're looking at 16 gigs of RAM, 512 megs, or 512 gigs of SSD storage, NVMe on a Mac, and then looking at the equivalent XPS. Turns out the XPS is actually more expensive. That was mind-blowing to me. We're talking about the MacBook Pro. That is mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing that the price difference is so close. It's so close. I couldn't believe it. But anyway, as far as that GPU goes, they have made the M1 GPU draw a triangle on the screen. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, as a triangle, man, that's not a title bar. It's not Audacity or anything else, right? But being able to draw something as simple as a triangle shows a proof of concept and the fact that you can move forward. You've got the basics figured out. And now, again, as we said before about everything else, it's just refinement at this point. And that may be where most of the work is going to come. But the fact is, it's working way before anybody, I don't know, maybe except me, right? Said that it was going to be working. So I'm really happy about this. This is exciting stuff. It is making me consider buying a Mac. I don't think so, but I might just do it. It's really enticing. And then if you run Mac OS, whatever, you get like 20 hours battery life. Okay, that whole thing. Anyway, let the hate mail flow. That'd be fine. So good news there.
Edge, now a Mac.
Hey,
Leo.
look. Vertical tabs, man. Turns out I hate vertical tabs. I can't stand them. So that feature is not enticing to me.
I feel like
But,
I
Leo?
don't know you anymore.
I know.
You didn't mention it was done with all original open source code and signifies a big step forward.
Yeah, well, I said the big step forward,
Open
but
source.
I didn't say
Open source,
it's
baby.
original open source code. So there is value in Apple hardware on the Linux side because it's original open source code. And I mean, just throw a bunch of money their way, man. Make it easier for them to do this work and make this come faster. That would be fantastic. Anyway, next up, Flatpak, which I told you I YOLO installed the other day. So Flatpak 1.10.0 is released. This is really cool. I really the other reason one reason is I wanted to run Chromium. I just wanted to see how well it would work, and it works. So it works just fine. But the other thing I wanted to see was downloading the apps list will become much faster. That's one of the features of 1.10. Well, it was one of the features of like 1.9.3, but odd numbering schemes are the betas. So 1.10 is the official release where we actually get to see how FlatHub is going to scale. That was one of the biggest problems with FlatHub. As it grew, everybody doing a FlatHub or a Flatpak update would have to download the whole new manifest, which is basically everything that exists in FlatHub. You'd have to download that first, and then you would be able to get the stuff that you needed, which incrementally gets longer and longer and longer and longer. So one of the cool changes in 1.10 is that you now only download your own architecture. Before, it was like, you had to download the ARM architecture, you had to download the x86 architecture, you had to. And now, if you're on a 64-bit machine, you only have to download the x86, 64-bit architecture for your platform. That's all you have to download now. And that went from, in some early testing, 1.8 megs, which for people that are on slower connections ain't instant, down to 554 kilobytes. And that is a almost 2/3 improvement over previous versions. So I think that's a really good thing that makes Flatpak even more impressive. I really do just think function-wise, it's got fewer paper cuts than Snap does right now. I know Snap's working on it. The whole team is working on it, but it just seems that Flatpak has been ready for prime time with less paper cuts for longer than Snap has been, and it really just seems to me that Flatpak is the way to go. But if you don't care, well, then you don't care. But yeah, I think App Image could use with some polishing as well. Just make App Image like to make a callback to the Apple thing. Just make App Image behave like DMG files. Just drag them into the apps folder. Have that little pop up and just drag and drop and be done. That would be, I think that would be a huge boon for App Image. And before you say it, I know App Image D does that, but distributions have to sign on and distribute that. Because right now it's not in any of the Ubuntu repositories that I know of. It may be in Rolling Rhino's repositories or whatever's coming out for, what is it? Hirsute Hippo? Is that the next one? Something like that. It may be in that repo, but it ain't in any of the long-term repos just yet. So. Yeah, hopefully that changes. App Image D gets shuffled around. That'd be great. Anyway, speaking of Ubuntu, they're doing something that I think should have been done a long time ago, and that is making home folders private. Speaking of Hirsute Hippo, yeah, home folders are going to be private now. If you did not know before, and you did not listen to our episode on permissions, then this might just go right over your head. But I'll explain. So, home folders are currently not private in any version of Ubuntu. And that means that if you have an account and your girlfriend or wife or friend or whoever has another account on your machine, you end up in the situation where if you wanted security, you don't get it by default. You have to go and manually make those changes. So your home folder has permissions 755 by default, which means that you get read-write in that directory. Your group gets read in that directory, but it doesn't directly impact you unless you add people to your group, which is the same name as your username. So my username would be Leo. My group name would also be Leo. If I added someone to the Leo group, they would then be able to read via the group permissions. But that didn't really matter because the other category, the 755, that second 5, also means that everybody else on the entire system also has read access to your home folder. Does that make sense, right? Because now everybody can see the stuff in your home folder. So that's an issue if security is your priority. If you're on a server with multiple users, then this becomes kind of an issue. So 2104 and beyond will now have home folders set to 750, meaning only you and your group have any access to your own home folder, which is your user has full read-write access. Your group has read access. Everybody else has nothing. So anybody else on that machine can no longer poke into your home folder. You can force this right now in your own machines by changing the permissions to 750, but it'll happen eventually in 2104. But it will not be a change that affects you if you're upgrading. If you want that change, you'll have to manually do it after the fact. But if you're doing a fresh install of 2104 or beyond, yeah, private home folders, man. What do y'all think? Does this matter to you at all? Home folders?
Well,
private?
it's a step in the right direction. It probably won't impact me a lot since I'm the only user on of my computers because I'm the only one that really likes Linux in my house. But I really do see that as a step in the right direction, just having that little bit of extra security by default.
Yeah, and one thing to kind of drive the point home though is even if you run Docker or this snap or that snap or whatever, if these things have access to read into home and you store private keys in your home folder with the wrong permissions, right? If you don't actually take the time to go and do that, or you have a copy of your private key not in .ssh with the correct permissions, any of those processes could just reach in and pull it out because of the way that they're set. So, I think
nobody
this is a great
does
change.
that.
Right. Nobody accidentally copies their private key to the wrong spot. Nobody does that.
As I quick search in my home folder to see if there's one in there.
What's a private key?
What's the
now,
internet?
this one does not apply to you then, Moss.
Or I'm an idiot.
Nah, if you don't use them, then it doesn't really make sense to talk about them too terribly much. But basically, the idea is you have a public and private key. The public key is kind of like a padlock that you will put on any server that you want to log into, and the private key is the key that goes into that padlock. You'd never ever want to share that
Proton Mail.
private
It's all
key.
automated.
Yeah, you never ever want to share your private key with anybody but yourself. Because if you do, then someone can then just copy, right? If you shared your master lock key with somebody, then they could go take it to a home hardware store and make about 1 million copies of it, and then just get into all of your doors and all of your stuff. So yeah, that's the basic gist of it. Anyway, new development in CentOS 8, gonna kick you off their platform real fast mode. Project Linux. I mentioned this before, but I mispronounced it as Linux, which is not. It's Linux. From Cloud Linux gets a name, Alma Linux. And Alma means soul in Spanish and a lot of other Latin languages. So this is like Linux for your soul, the soul of Linux, all rolled into this distro. But yeah, I mean, not much else has changed on that front. But yeah, one of the CentOS 8 successors, or at least one of the ones trying to be a successor, now renamed to Alma Linux.
Well, actually, I heard one other thing on the CentOS RHEL front, and that's that they're giving away I think it's up to 16 licenses for free use.
Oh, you're right.
For companies.
Good call. Yep, 16 per account, I think, is what it is.
Right,
and
yeah, that's what it is, yeah.
Yeah, I remember, maybe it was you, I don't know, someone was saying that they weren't going to check it.
No, I think it was Bo.
Okay.
Yeah, I was talking about it yesterday.
I mean, we'll see. We'll see when you get angry tweets about, Red Hat took me down, I was doing 17.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people in the corporate environment are paying attention to this that are probably on CentOS 7 now and wondering what they're going to go to, because they're not going to go to Stream. I feel like in most corporate environments, the Stream is just not considered to be stable enough.
Yeah. I mean, it's close, but it's still not, it's not what they signed up for. They did not sign up for and I know rolling release is not the right terminology for it, but it's basically a beta release for RHEL 8. I mean, that's not what they signed up for. They signed up for, after RHEL gets it, that's when I want it. I want it, tested. And I don't mind the time it takes for that to come down to me. I don't know. Oracle Linux, right? And everybody gags.
Well, that's one of my main reasons for not wanting to run Fedora is that it has limited lifespan on each release, and they haven't had a great record at upgrading from one release to another.
Well, upgrades have always been pretty good to me on Fedora. I cannot recall a time.
You've been lucky.
I mean, I just cannot recall a time where Fedora choked during the upgrade. But yeah, I mean, hey, right? I mean, we have people complaining about the Linux Mint upgrade too. I guess no upgrade is perfect. Anyway, just a quick update on the gaming front. For those that were wondering, hey, is Valve just going to keep throwing money at Linux? The answer is yeah. They don't get a whole lot of return for that. But, I mean, they have proven time and time again their commitment to making sure that things work on Linux just fine. And, I mean, we saw that with Cyberpunk 2077 running a couple of days after release.
That's right, yeah.
Is insanely impressive.
And my understanding is that it ran terribly, exactly as it does on Windows.
Right.
Man, yeah, unoptimized.
But not as bad as it ran on the PlayStation.
Yeah, PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One.
Poor consolers, bad. Man.
I love the videos on that though. That they were the best.
Oh, the ones where it took forever for everything to start to render?
Well, not only that, but someone would just be standing there looking into the distance, and you see this little dot, and all of a sudden it would get closer and closer. And as it got closer, you realized it was a car flying through the air coming at you.
Oh God. Yeah, those are just, oh man. I've seen video after video after video comparing Cyberpunk 2077 to other games that were released in 2002 and 2004 and 2008 that do things better than Cyberpunk. But oh man, what a history will not be kind to CD Projekt Red on this particular topic ever. Just it was not a good release.
No,
man.
there
It
hasn't
was
been
not.
this has been the worst release in a long time that I've noticed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the upshot to this is that Valve made Cyberpunk 2070, or they contributed to the horrible running of it on Linux, but just as it did on Windows. So I think that's still a huge step forward, a really good signal for those of us gaming on Linux. And I've got a quote from the basically the State of the Union of 2021, how it's going to go, how things are going, all that. Linux. We're continuing to invest in technology that improves game compatibility and performance through Steam Play. We're also putting together new ways for prospective users to get into Linux gaming and experience these improvements. So, I mean, it's your 2021 commitment from Valve. In 2022, I'll expect another post with another commitment to Linux gaming again. But, it's good. Linux is less than 1% in Steam, yet Valve will still throw money at this. It is a loss leader for them, and I just appreciate every single day that they do this. So another one that I was hesitant to put in here, but why not? Let's stir the pot. Chrome cutting off API access to everyone but themselves. Sync no longer available. I was reading the original post, and if you click on the link on this one, you'll actually get to read the post on Chromium where it talks about, during a recent audit, we discovered that some third-party Chromium-based browsers were able to integrate Chrome features such as Chrome Sync and Click-to-Call that are only intended for Google's use, blah, 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 right? So what they're saying is browsers like not Opera or Brave or Vivaldi, those all have their own ecosystem for syncing, but other lesser known browsers were adding in Chrome Sync and other features, and Chrome was like, no, we're just going to cut it all off for everybody, even if you don't use it. It's just, nope. And one of the things about this is not really that big of a gut punch for most people, except for people that are running Chromium. And on a first read, Google actually doesn't even reference Chromium. They reference third-party Chromium-based browsers. Not Chromium, but third-party Chromium-based browsers. Chromium is not Chromium-based. Chromium is Chromium. So, but on first read, it would seem like Chromium dodged a bullet on this one. Well, that's not how it reads if you follow the Fedora Twitter, because you have a couple of folks that were jumping in to, yell the sky is falling. Tom Calloway, one of those. So he says, Google has announced that it is cutting off access to Sync and other Google exclusive APIs from all builds except Google Chrome. This will make the Fedora Chromium build significantly less functional. And then he does clarify down a question by Bulio Get. He asks, the Chromium devlog says third-party Chromium-based browsers, and this was my thought too, right? Is Chromium third-party now or what? I don't understand. And then Tom Calloway comes back and clarifies, says that Google clarified and says, if it ain't built by Google themselves, it's third-party. So yeah, even though third-party Chromium-based does not specifically say Chromium, it does mean Chromium too. So the reason I really wanted to bring this up is not because I use Chromium or anything like that, but to ask a question that I have had for a long time. If you're going to use Chromium and you're just going to slap all the Google crap into it anyway, why aren't you using Chrome? Why Chromium? I don't get that.
Couple of reasons. One, Chrome doesn't run on a Pi 3. Chromium
valid point
does. Two, sometimes you want a completely separate browser that is still Chrome or Chrome-based, Chromium in this case, you can log into with a completely separate account and keep it completely separate.
Well, at least not with Sync.
You no longer can.
So on that point, I mean, would it bother you to move to Brave or Vivaldi or Edge or some other Chromium-based variant? They're all basically the same performance.
Well, if they come up with their own sync solution, then no, it wouldn't bother me. It'd be just the same thing if I were still doing the whole separate account for Chromium.
So for you, Chromium is a choice because it's convenient, not because it's the best one or something.
Right.
Oh, okay, cool. I mean, that's a respectable stance to have. But for the folks that remember Linux Mint, remember that whole thing where Chromium was not available because Linux Mint didn't ship Snap, and now they ship Chromium, and now Chromium is available in Flatpak 2. So all of that is water under the bridge. I mean, unless you like holding grudges, but right, like, why was Chromium such a big deal? You could totally get other Chromium-based browsers that worked just as well, in my opinion. But I mean, I don't know. I didn't understand why it was such a big deal to not have access to Chromium, even for a short amount of time.
Is this going to be something we're going to see Google walk back on when the community gets all upset with them over it?
What community? People don't care about Chrome. People that use Chrome don't even know they're using Chrome. It's just that circly, colorful thing that they click on to get to Facebook.com. I think
maybe
the majority.
You're right, and maybe you're wrong.
I think, to be honest with you, I really think I'm right on this one. They will not budge for people in Linux. Not even an inch. They won't give an inch to us. But they might give an inch if 40% of their 60% market share starts to give rumblings or something like that. But really, there have been tons of times where Google killed something or changed something, and people were all up in arms about it. Remember Google Wave? Yeah. And then what did Google do? Nothing. What do they care? You're going to keep using Google stuff anyway. So why would they change?
Yeah, they're notorious for getting rid of stuff, even if there's outcry over it.
Yeah, they don't care. They do not care. So, just an interesting thing. And if you use Chromium and you really, really, really just love Chromium for something, what is the killer feature? Why not just move to Chrome? And does this even show up on your radar? Do you care about this particular thing? Send us an email. Talk about it in Telegram or Discord. Let us know. I'm very curious about why people use Chromium over Chrome. I used it because I could sudo apt install Chromium and it was just there and I could use it as a browser. But when I realized Linux Mint was dropping, and I was like, okay, well, I guess I install Vivaldi now. So that was really the only thing that it came out to me. Anyway, that'll do it for the news. So we'll head down to the security update. I'll keep it quick. I'm going to blame it on Bo. Rhymes with Joe, so it's almost as good. Every time we have Bo on the show, that's where the front half gets huge. And it's not necessarily Bo's fault. I don't know. We just tend to talk more when Bo's around.
It's Bo's
extra
fault.
Special, Bo.
I interject a lot.
Well,
you didn't even do it this episode. You didn't even do it a lot this episode, and I swear we're still massive. So it's not directly your fault, but I'm going to blame you anyway.
We have 6 people on the show. When we have 4 or 5, it's shorter.
Yeah, true.
And we started early.
That's true. All right, so I'll make this quick. This really will actually hopefully be a 5-ish minute security thing. And it's really not even directly security related. I just really wanted to talk about this because I like Brave a lot. Interplanetary file system. Guys, this is a way to keep the internet up and make it extremely resilient and have nothing to do with Google. This is one of my favorite features that have come out on the internet in a while. I mean, the DNS over HTTPS thing, I mean, that was really cool because you could kind of mask some of your DNS stuff from specific people or whatever. But I mean, if you were interested enough, you could kind of reverse that and figure it out, right? That was a cool feature, but not like this. This is different. This is something that would be so groundbreaking if it catches on. So, real quick, originally created back in 2015, the purpose, like BitTorrent, is to make file storage on the web distributed to increase the resilience of the web by allowing people that opt in to IPFS to store little bits of data that they've seen and share it out when somebody else geographically close to them makes a request. Think about it like this. We go to mintcast.org all the time. Let's say we turn on IPFS and we also become a local node. That way we can share out stuff. If someone, in my city was looking for mintcast.org, they wouldn't download the content from mintcast.org. They would download it from me and then get anything that I didn't have from mintcast.org or somebody else around me that has also gone to that website and opted into IPFS. So it can speed up the web because I don't know if you're in the US and you go to mintcast.org, it's a little slow because it's hosted in the UK, so it takes a little while to get over there, right? I mean, but IPFS can help with that by giving you the bigger assets and then just grabbing the rest of the stuff that you don't have stored from mintcast.org. So it has that perception of being faster. And then as well, what happens if mintcast.org goes down? Right? Everybody else that's involved in IPFS can continue to serve up mintcast.org, and you don't have to use archive.org or something like that to do that, and put extra strain on them. By the way, donate to them because they are fantastic. But right, it takes the load off of them a little bit, yet they can still be their archival thing. And that's the deal, right? Like IPFS is fantastic and allows you to take some of the load off of those single points of failure that exist on the internet. And so as Josh found out earlier, turning on IPFS is super easy. You just go click in the settings. That's it. That's literally it. And then once you go to an IPFS website or one that is enabled or enhanced by IPFS, Brave will ask you, hey, you want to be a local node? You want to do this gateway thing? And if you say yes, then you also will start to divvy out any kind of information that you have that somebody else might be requesting. And here's why I think it is so cool. And here's why I think we need it. Google AMP. So for those of you that don't know what Google AMP is, it's basically IPFS, but Google controls it. And here's the thing. If you enable AMP on your website, then Google will go and download all the crap and then put it on their servers, and then it will distribute it to you based on your geographic location. Sound familiar? Yeah, it's basically IPFS, right? And that's how that works, right? And it will be fast because Google's serving it up to you. It's going to be resilient because Google has servers all over the world, and it gives you peace of mind because if your server goes down, Google, right? Every good point about IPFS is mirrored in Google AMP. But the difference is Google does not control IPFS, nor could they. No one could. IPFS is a protocol like BitTorrent to where you take down one, you can't take down another. For those of you that are really decrying censorship right now, this is something you should be paying attention to. This is a way to keep a website up regardless of who decides they should be up or should be down or whatever the deal may be. Now, the reason that I mentioned Brave earlier in this segment is that there's only one browser in the entire world, at least popular, that implements IPFS. Not by default, you have to go turn it on. You have to opt in. And that's a good thing, I think. Features like this should be opt-in. That browser is Brave. So for all that stuff I said at the top of the show about, you can, they're doing the web right because you can do ads and, all this stuff, and you can pay content creators and all that stuff, right? That's great. And then also this is another fantastic thing. And Chrome is looking into adding IPFS, so it's not like they're far behind or anything like that. And it's not like they're trying to stifle innovation in this area. But having Google control pretty much all of everything out there, I think, is a security issue for the same reason that I think Chromium-based browsers dominating the market is a security issue, right? So, I mean, me harping on Brave kind of goes against that idea, but, you get IPFS with that, which is okay. And Firefox is looking at implementing IPFS as well. So, yes, another reason to use Firefox.
So I have a question. Oh, sorry. You go first, Moss.
Yeah.
Okay. Wouldn't the ultimate be a completely distributed internet like Beaker browser is trying to do?
Well, I think functionally, Brave is certainly more popular than Beaker browser. So this would...
Well, yeah, but that's because Google runs everything,
Well, no.
If we want to get totally out of Google, then Beaker is the only way to go.
So I think one of the big issues with something like that is that you have to actually get it installed on people's machines. And I mean, how easy is it to set that up?
It takes seconds.
Okay. I mean, so honestly, this is something that I'll have to look into because I don't know enough to say, IPFS is better. But one of the things that I will say is IPFS is a global standard, is something that is already written and ratified, and anybody can implement it. So if you have to use a specific browser to do it, then that might be less of a value than it's coming in Brave, it's coming in Firefox, it'll come in other Chromium-based browsers as well. So IPFS may be the way to go just because it's going to get more airtime.
Well, Beaker is a project of Sir Tim Berners-Lee, who, as they say, invented the internet.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, I'll look into that. We'll talk about it some more. But I don't want to say. Honestly, I just don't know enough about it to say anything smart. So, so I'll refrain for now. Anyhow.
Leo. I just wanted to ask. Now, does it only work like for Brave? Let's just focus on Brave. Does it only work between Brave browsers and the nodes that they have, or can this work like, let's say Firefox implements it? Would it work between Firefox nodes and Brave's nodes, or is it only those nodes unless they like form a standard?
So that's a really good question. I should have
a really good question.
So the answer is it'll work with anything because IPFS is like IP addressing.
So it's like a standard in itself.
Exactly.
Okay.
So if you sign on to the standard, then you are also agreeing that you're not going to break it for other people. So yes, another.
You're just going to continue to make it better as you make more nodes.
Exactly. IPFS is an agnostic protocol, just like HTTPS is. I don't care what browser you're using. I'm going to serve it up to you. Whatever you do, what you want to with it. Yeah. All right. Well, cool. So yeah, that'll do it for the security. We'll move down to the Linux innards. All right. So we've had time. The last show, we talked about Linux Mint 20.1, but we all had a maximum of like 24 hours to play with it. So we basically just said, yeah, the upgrade worked, and that was it, right? I mean, things didn't burst into flames, so we're good. But now that we've had a couple of weeks to actually live on Linux Mint 20.1 and really put it through its paces, do our normal shenanigans, now we can actually talk about it in a little more informed way. So, Maz, how did you get on?
Well, I wasn't here for the last episode, as you know, so I did the upgrades on the Mini and on my Kudu, and they upgraded without an actual hitch, although one of them said something didn't work, and I didn't understand what didn't work about it, but when I rebooted, everything was fine. I did a clean install on the Dell laptop that Josh got me. I watched a bit of Hypnotics, with most of the issues seeming to be just what happens on streaming TV. I've had a lockup or two, but that happens with any IPTV streamer. I tried once to set up a web app, but didn't quite understand what they were doing, and I didn't have enough spoons to read up on it at the time. So that's a future project still.
The web apps thing, boss, I think when you figure that out, I mean, and I'm happy to show you. When you figure that out, if you have because I've got Plex and Nextcloud. Those are the two that I use web app wise. I mean, it's just so fantastic that I can just click on the Nextcloud button and in a little box pops up, and it's just like Nextcloud. It's like if Nextcloud had a desktop app, it behaves like that, and it's just so convenient.
Well, I think my wife is going to want to be using that for bank accounts, just doing lookup there instead of, yeah.
That's another. I don't know if it's intended. It probably is. I mean, Clem's a clever guy. I think that might be an intended consequence of when you fire up Web App Manager and you say use this browser, it does not use the profile that you have generated on that browser. It creates a whole new one. So doing your bank account information or something like that within that browser gives you a slight security edge in that profile has no idea where you've been outside of that web app. And that is fantastic stuff.
Well, that's about all I've done with it. I mean, it works. That's what you want Mint to do.
I did. I actually used the web app browser to make a web app for the Foundry virtual tabletop. I use I use a web hosted version of it so that like my friends can join my game. And so there's not a desktop I can't use the desktop application.
Right.
Otherwise, and so I the Foundry. There's a website called the Forge that I use for my web version of the game, and I just turned that web URL into an app, and so it opens just as. From my perspective, it looks just like the desktop version of the game looks.
Yeah, it's so good. I mean, actually, I didn't even think about using that, but me and a few friends do VTT every now and then. And I mean, what I got to do? I got to open up a browser. I got to go to the website. I got to
Right.
But
yeah.
it didn't even dawn on me to use Web App Manager for that. And thank you, seriously, thank you, because now I will use another thing with Web App Manager. That's fantastic.
Okay, so sorry, excuse me. I've had 20.1 on my laptop for just over 2 weeks, and it's working great. As Moss said, I like Hypnotics. It's a great little IPTV app. I've played around with it a bit, but I've not got an awful lot of time for watching TV and stuff at the moment.
Yeah, it's like you have 30 minutes to watch TV, and you spend that 30 minutes trying to find what channel you're going to watch.
Yeah, it's like it used to be back in the 90s, man. You just channel surfing.
Yeah. But web apps, I really do think that's cool. I've got a couple of Zoom meetings that I go to that have the same address each week, so I've set them both up as different web apps, and so I can just click on one and it takes me to that particular meeting, or I click on the other and it takes me to that meeting.
Oh man, that's
That's
smart
another
too.
really good. Yeah,
Man,
this is way more useful than we realized.
That is actually really cool.
Yeah,
so
if you've
good.
got a static address for a Zoom meeting, it's really cool for that. So if you attend 2 or 3 different Zoom meetings with static addresses, just set each one of them up as a separate web app, and you can just click the one that you need.
God, that's so cool. Thanks, Peppermint Guy.
So apart from that, and apart from the hardware acceleration in celluloid, I think a load of the stuff is under the hood. I know they've done some improvements to printing and scanning, but I don't use my laptop for printing or scanning, so I'll have to wait until I get 20.1 or above installed onto the desktop PC. But so far, so good. I'm liking it, and as usual, it's stable. It's based on Ubuntu 2004, so I wouldn't expect it to have destabilized. I'm sure Clem and the team did a lot of work to make sure it was still stable. So no problems there. So what about you, Josh?
Well, basically the same thing. It's been pretty stable. I mean, I haven't had any issues unless I've caused them, which is usually why there's problems. But yeah, I've been using the web app for like you guys have been doing pretty much everything. Like I make all my forums are all web apps. Google Drive's a web app. There's a lot of other ones. I got a whole list.
Drive's another good web app. I don't know why I didn't think about that, because I use Nextcloud that way.
Yeah,
Drive would be a pretty decent web app.
that's nice. You can do each one of the like if you use the spreadsheets and the Google, all the Google stuff, you can make each one of them also a web app. I'm pretty sure. I haven't tried it, but I'm pretty sure you should be able to. That would be nice too, because then you could just go right to it.
I have a question, real quick.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I've noticed about the web apps is that it doesn't do tabs. So it only opens up that first tab. Now, if you click on something, it will go to it, but you can't switch back to Drive itself if you, say, opened up the show notes.
You can get it to show the whole of the web page, including all the tools. So it depends how you set up the web app.
But if you do that, you might as well just look it up in the web.
Right.
Yeah. I think when you use Google Drive, it doesn't put it in tabs. Like let's say you open up the writer or whatever. I think it just brings you to the writer, and then you can just go. I think you can go back because it has all the tabs on inside the Google Drive. Now I don't know about other sites, but I'm pretty sure that one you can.
You might be able to use your keyboard shortcuts for going back.
That could be too.
As well.
But anyways, yeah, no, yeah, I don't. There's not much else I can say because I mean, everything's basically the same as it was last time. Everything's stable, and I've been using the web apps and the hypnotics. I'm just kind of browsing it. I haven't really watched much on it. We got Discovery Plus, so we've been watching that a lot. So I haven't had time for that. And now with school, I probably won't have any time unless there's a networking channel. Maybe I'll have to search for that. Oh, speaking of search, I actually did put in a feature request for Hypnotics to have a search function so you can search for a show or anything like that. I don't know if they read it or not, but I did put it in there.
Question: are they going to shove Hypnotics upstream so an Ubuntu install could use it?
Depends on if somebody puts it in a Flatpak.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, I think Flatpak might be the right answer to that one because
I watch all my TV on my Raspberry Pi 4, and obviously that can only run Ubuntu since Mint doesn't have a Pi version.
Yeah, I think the Mint team likely won't do it, but I mean the code is open source, so if somebody wants to package it, they certainly
I'm
can.
sure someone will do it eventually.
Mm-hmm. I mean that's exactly how the what is it, Warpinator? That's how that one became a Flatpak. Mint didn't do that.
Nope. So Joe, how's your experience with Mint 20.1?
Well, it's been on my gaming laptop since last show. The laptop I'm using right now. I've not noticed much of a difference between this and the previous version, which is good for an incremental update. It hasn't impacted my workflow in any way, which is a plus, really. I'm still able to log into my work and do a full day's work just like before. I found that I haven't really used Hypnotics. I mean, it's a cool app, but I just haven't used it since it was installed. But that's because I've already established my flow for watching movies and TV shows on my own schedule, and that was one thing about Hypnotics, where you find a channel, you can get into the channel, and then it starts wherever it's at. You can pause from that point and let it buffer, and then either skip forward a bit or back up. But if you click away and click back, it's going to start from, where it's at on the live stream. So, like everybody has said, web apps, extremely useful. And now that I can set it up with Chrome, and I love how it creates a menu item, and it's a very simple way to get WhatsApp web up and running with just 2 clicks. For me, it's been useful. I also have YouTube set up with Firefox on it, so that way, Firefox and YouTube seems to use up less RAM than Chrome and YouTube does. I like it, and the only new things that I've noticed is that the menu search is now by relevance, which does make it a little bit more useful. Instead of just alphabetical order, it is by relevance. And I had to kind of dig a little deep to find something negative, but the only negative that I've seen is that per monitor fractional scaling isn't working yet. And I know that's supposed to be in the works. I can see that it's supposed to be in the works from the displays menu, but it's not working yet. So hopefully next revision it is working. Leo, what have you seen?
Yeah, well, that's pretty cool because I don't know. I just, instead of buying a second monitor, I just buy monitors with higher resolutions because I only want to have to plug one thing in, I guess. So a lot of those things never really affect me.
Well, that doesn't really work with using a laptop with a second monitor.
Oh, true that. Yeah, well, with my laptop, I do the same thing. I just close my laptop and use the one monitor. But I mean, that's not for everybody. Obviously, I'm just saying that I get to sidestep those issues because I don't run dual monitors. But for me, 20.1 has been nothing short of amazing. I haven't had a single issue with it. I did the upgrade, as I mentioned on the last episode, and that included using a non-standard ASA version, so graphics driver, and the 5.8 kernel that was that Linux Mint makes available early through their kernel updater. And I mean, I expected if something was going to go wrong, it was going to be with this configuration. And no, everything seemed to work just fine. So outside of that, Cinnamon feels more responsive, and this is kind of what I was talking about in the in the wandering section. That everything is fast. Like when I scroll through, browser stuff, it you can tell that it is, graphically what is it, GPU rendered or whatever. But I mean, the amount of smoothness that comes out of that when you move windows around, you minimize them, stuff like that. I think one of the coolest things is that I have not seen a skipped frame. So not just in the browser stuff, but like when I minimize a window or drag a window around, or open up 6 windows at a time and they all kind of like pop into the screen, all animated like. Usually you'll see one of those windows where it'll kind of give a quick little stutter, but I haven't seen any of that over these past couple of weeks. And I mean, it has just cemented my love. And this is kind of what I was talking about. I'm having second thoughts about Kubuntu because there are little, paper cut issues that crop up, and smoothness is one of them. Not with the DE, but with browsers. And Cinnamon just does not have any of those types of issues, and it's making my choice of Cinnamon and Linux Mint it makes me feel good about that. So yeah, heck yeah. And then I did put it through its paces a little bit. I ran Cities Skylines, I think it was. I turned it on, let it run for like a huge amount of time, and then I decided to start playing the game. So that went on for, I don't know, a good 3-4 hours, at least in one session. And I mean, everything was great. A little sound stuttering, but that happened in Kubuntu as well. So I think it's more of a maybe an Ubuntu or just a Linux at large issue. And I did it was about like a 6 to 7 hour edit session. Well, not in one go, for Linux user space. So stability is fantastic. I've gotten the pre-release episode out, and folks have given good feedback about that. So there's no weird, crazy little bugs that have snuck in that would make that kind of workflow change at all. So yeah, and then of course the web app manager is fantastic, as I mentioned before. Hypnotics is fantastic, as we've been talking about it. It really does. I think we were talking to Anthony in Telegram, where we were talking about how I think it's just one of those things where you just like having background noise. Like my generation and maybe older kind of grew up with there was always a TV on. Someone was always watching the TV, and it may not have been anything particularly important or anything like that, but there was always that little in the background that is just comforting sometimes, I guess. And Hypnotics gives me that again without having to spend $150 paying my cable service to get channels that I'll never watch, right? So with Hypnotics, I get channels that I'll never watch for free. Yay! And then of course, what's the other one? The little the file pusher. I said it earlier. Warpinator. That's still going strong, and I still move my files. Nextcloud has taken over, but I mean, if I know I have Warpinator up on the other machine and I just need to push a file real quick, and I don't want to have to deal with logging into Nextcloud, it's just so fantastic. And I open it up to where I drop a file into Warpinator and it's auto accepted on the other end. Yeah, that's not great security practice, but I'm at home, I don't leave, so that's okay. At least for now. Maybe I'll reconvene on that after I start going back to work and stop working from home and everything. But all in all, 20.1 has been fantastic. Bo, do you have any thoughts? Are you going to say something like I've been running on Arch this entire time, so I have no idea what 20.1 is about?
Yeah, just Arch, by the way.
We knew it.
No, I'm kidding.
You and Josh are going to be doing that for the rest of all eternity.
That. Arch, by the way.
Oh, do you guys run Arch? I never would have guessed.
I don't know if I've ever said this before on the show. No, to me the biggest takeaway is the web apps. I mean, that's the biggest win for me. I didn't know that it would be as useful as it is.
Yeah, and the fact that we can sit here and listen to other people say how they use it and be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna use it that way too, it's great.
Like how and I'll touch on it just for a second and we can move on, but how often is there like a need for, like, how often does something get added to a distribution where you're like, did anybody really even need that? Or it's like cell phone features where it's like, I think they're just making up problems now so they can solve it. But this is one that it's like, I had no idea that I wanted this, and then once I got it, I was like, oh yeah, I've been wanting this for a long time and just didn't know it.
Yeah, and I'm looking at you, Samsung, for his comment on just making problems to solve them. You get two of everything. You get browser and S browser. You get pen and S pen. You
Well,
Yeah,
speaking
that's
of
true.
the phones and all that, actually, I've been using somewhat of a the web apps for the phone for my Android phone for a while now, where you can go into like the Brave browser and you can pin it as a app, and basically it just brings it up. I mean, it has to the website has to have support for this, but if it does, it'll bring up the website as almost like a native app for your phone.
Oh, that's
I
super cool.
The only one that I've seen that does it perfectly is Manjaro Forums. Theirs comes up and it looks, you wouldn't even know it wasn't an app.
Nice. That's super cool.
And you get notifications from the app. Like, let's say someone leaves a comment on one of your posts, it'll actually notify you on Android.
Dude, that's cool. Well, cool. Any final thoughts on 20.1? All right. Well, I know it ain't. For us, it has been. I think for us, it's been smooth sailing. But certainly no, it's not been smooth sailing for everybody. I know Hoosie was having a lot of trouble with logging in and getting everything settled. I think it was freezing or something like that. And yeah, so it ain't just butterflies and roses for absolutely everybody. But I mean, if you have issues with 20.1, we're no experts, but I mean, we'll take a crack at it. I think between all of us, we could probably figure something out, or at the very least, help you dig through the forums to find your answer. So yeah, if you're having troubles with 20.1, send us an email. Let us know what you're going through, or Telegram or Discord or something like that, and yeah, we'll try and solve your problem. And if we do, we'll add it to some of this feedback. But speaking of the feedback, let's head that way. So this whole feedback section, just for you, John. So we have another John Wallace saga, and he's got more Linus tips and tricks for us. Well, he's got the tricks, and I've got the tips. So John Wallace, by the way, has gotten that HP laptop. I know it was kind of a if I remember right, he had a laptop, and then it was sent back to the Service Depot, and Service Depot was like, no, not worth fixing. So ended up waiting for his new laptop that came on Christmas, or that he got to unbox on Christmas, and I think that's this HP laptop. So that HP laptop is running Linux Mint 20.1, and in nowhere in this email did I see that Linux Mint 20.1 was giving him issues. So I'm gonna go ahead and say another point for Linux Mint 20.1 in the previous section. Thanks, John. Anyway, so he writes, I'm back with an HP laptop, 128 gig SSD running Linux Mint 20.1. I've almost completed syscontrol tweaks with just one item left. And he lists one down, and it's the kernel.modules_disabled, and it's marked as different. So if I'm understanding Linus right, I think what it's saying is that it is different than what it expects, but not necessarily unsafe. So here's the deal. Before I get into that, let me finish reading. So what he says is, when I have attempted to implement this effect, the effect has been to disable Wi-Fi upon reboot. What's the best way forward? I look forward to hearing from you. The best way forward is to not disable loading of kernel modules. So what this particular thing does is this will allow unsigned modules after the kernel is loaded. So the only way around this is to load your modules before the kernel says, no more. So what really is happening here is if the driver or module for your particular piece of hardware is A, not in the kernel itself, or B, not specifically signed by a trusted vendor, then turning this kernel.modules_disabled on means that nope, it does not get loaded, and it sounds like your Wi-Fi adapter, probably Broadcom, which means that it's not in the kernel tree. So that means that it's not going to get loaded. So you can do some crazy tweaking with this to get the module loaded before syscontrol comes online and enforces this particular policy. But I mean, kind of at that point, you're already loading unsigned modules anyway. So I mean, you kind of run into a sticky situation. Yeah, it's not really that worth it, to be honest. So in my opinion, I would leave this alone unless you are worried that people have access to your laptop and could start loading kernel modules into like start loading kernel modules on your system. So yeah, there's hardly a middle ground here. You turn it on, it won't allow your Wi-Fi to work. You can tweak it to allow that module to load up before this policy is enabled, or you can leave it alone and everything will just work as you expect it to. Now, a little tongue-in-cheek answer to this one is, if you turn on this module and you can't get on Wi-Fi, well, no one can hack you because you're not on the internet. So, I mean, there's that. Still horrible for air-gapped machines, though. Machines that are meant to not be on the internet and only do one or two jobs. I really think that's what this is about. This particular policy is meant for appliances that already have kernel support for all of the hardware that they have built in, right? So like the Intel wired network Ethernet controller or something like that, right? Where it's difficult to do that kind of thing. And then when you enable this, then obviously no new kernel modules can be added. So I don't think this is for a roaming laptop kind of situation, though if you are paranoid, you can make it work. And to that end, I have linked a Hunix.org forum article for you that goes through the entire conversation of what this is, why you want it, and there's basically a guy in there that is learning how this is working on the fly. So what's cool is that it's so piecemealed out that it's actually really easy to understand if you go through the forum post and don't just try to go down straight to the answer and be like, turn it on, turn it off, or whatever. So it's totally worth the read through. It'll probably take you about no more than 10 minutes to get the whole gist of what's going on, and then it will allow you to understand how to enable one of those out of tree modules even when you have this thing turned on as well. So that's that one. Part 2. Another email. He says, since setting up my HP laptop, I've taken it from an initial Linus scoring of 68 to a scoring of 84. I'm going to assume 100 is amazing, but also that nothing works. Because, perfect security means you can't do anything, right? I mean, I talk about this all the time where you have this sliding scale of usability and security. Usability is on one end, security is on the other, and you have to decide where in the middle you're going to put your little marker. And if you go all the way to the secure side, well, you can't use the thing because it's fully locked down, right? And if you go fully to the usable side, well, anybody can just walk up and log into your stuff because you don't have a password. So, there's a happy medium in there. The answer is always somewhere in the middle, never on the fringes. And this is no different. So he has a list: Network D Dispatcher, On Demand, OSSPD, Plymouth Start, and Polkit. They're all marked as unsafe. And that's a little on the tinfoil hat, crazy paranoid side. So let's break these down. So let me see. I have each of these up, but I think I'm backwards. Network D. Okay, so Network D Dispatcher is on top, so we'll talk about that one first. Network D Dispatcher is basically the thing that comes back and tells you, hey, your connection's up. Hey, your connection's down. Hey, we don't have access to the internet. Hey, I can't see the DNS. So this is basically a service that will tell you what's going on with your network network interfaces, whether that's Wi-Fi or network or any loopback, whatever else. If you can do an IP space A, those are the ones that are going to be impacted by this particular thing. And this is not necessarily a end of the world kind of thing. If you turn it off, you just get less information back from your network interfaces if you decide to disable this particular service. So this one's okay to turn off. I mean, obviously test it, but yeah, if you want to get rid of this one, what is it? System control disable network d-dispatcher.service. So I mean, that will turn it off fully, or you can just stop it for and test it, and if it's okay, then obviously you can disable it without too much impact. So on demand, that particular service is referencing your CPU scaling. So if you want your CPU to continue saving battery life, you're on a laptop, so I assume this is going to be something that's important to you. Do not turn this one off. This is basically the CPU's ability to change speeds depending on the workload. So if you're just sitting back and reading some text on the screen, your CPU is gonna scale down because it's not doing much. And once you start scrolling really fast or opening up new web pages or something like that, your CPU is going to scale up and speed up to meet the demand that you have. So by turning this off, if I have not turned this off, but my assumption is going to be that it's just going to peg it at 100% and just be ready for anything, but never scale down, and that's going to be bad news for your battery. So my opinion, leave that one alone. The next is OSSPD. This is the OSS proxy daemon, and it's Debian defines this as a Linux userland OSS sound device implementation using CUSE. Currently, it supports forwarding OSS sound streams to Pulse Audio and ALSA. So if you do not use OSS devices, you can probably turn this off. This is one of those ones where I don't think it's a huge security risk unless you think someone's installing sound devices into your system. But this is one of those ones where you just test it. I will not test this live because, I'm recording a podcast. But I would say just systemctl stop OSSPD.service and then see if it impacts anything. Go play a YouTube video or whatever you do on a day-to-day. Listen to an MP3, something like that. And, if everything comes out audio-wise just fine, then, yeah, system control disable this particular service. It doesn't seem like it's integral to the system, so turning it off shouldn't blow anything up, so long as you don't turn off ALSA and Pulse Audio as well. So the another one is Plymouth, and if I'm not mistaken, Plymouth is startup splash screen and stuff like that. It has to deal with boot. So I don't know I don't know too terribly much about Plymouth, but let me see. It's a project from Fedora, now listed among the freedesktop.org official resources. Flicker-free graphical boot. I mean, that's as far as I understand, that's really what this is about. So if you don't care what it looks like when you boot, yeah, turn it off. But again, this is one of those ones where stop it, or I'm sorry, disable it, reboot, see how it affects you, and then if for some reason you don't boot anymore, something horrible happens, obviously re-enable that, reboot again, and come back. But this is one that I would imagine is only on the list because it has kernel mode settings in it that can affect the kernel. But again, someone has to have, I would imagine someone need to have physical access to your box to really get into this. So I don't think it would cause any issues if you turn this off, but again, the testing required on that one. Polkit, leave this one alone. Polkit is important for graphical user interfaces. So Polkit is also known as PolicyKit, is a component for controlling system-wide privileges. Leave this one alone. This is going to be how Ubuntu handles your permissions via your particular user account. So yeah, don't mess with this one. This has been a tried and true one. I really can't think of a good reason to turn this particular thing off. I think a lot of your software is going to rely on this, and unless you are really kind of wanting to dig into the whole thing of, well, if Polkit's not going to be taking care of all of the permissions, then, well, I'm going to have to take care of that. And if you're not willing to put in the work to do system-wide permissions for just about everything, then this is a don't touch it kind of thing. If you want, take a system image and turn it off and see what happens when you try to elevate. Anytime anything. So policy kit will swoop in anytime you're like sudo blah 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 blah, right? Polkit's involved. If you run an application as admin, as sudo or something like that, or as a super user, it's going to come up and be like, hey, give me your password so I can do this. If you do system control commands without providing sudo at the front, then that's policy kit too. So yeah, policy kit, leave it alone. You can see just how broken your system will be by turning it off, but don't turn it off. So anyway, so the end of that is I would appreciate your advice. Well, advice given, and I hope it was good advice. So let me know what you think about those, and I hope to hear from you again. But that's it for the feedback. So we'll head down to check this out. Cool. I think I kept that short, right? I hope I kept that short. So check this out. I totally forgot to write it down. If you want to check whether or not GPU rendering is on, let's say you use Chrome. I'm seriously gonna just type it right now. You can do Brave and Vivaldi, just kind of as an example of how to deal with this. You can type in this to whatever browser you're running, Chrome ://GPU, Brave ://GPU, whatever, to find out whether or not you're using GPU rendering or hardware rendering on your particular browser. And most stuff will be on, some things will be off, but just generally, if you want to figure out whether or not you're using it, you can do that. And this is how I found out that scrolling in Kubuntu was a little stuttery, and it shouldn't have been because hardware acceleration was on. So weird, but hey, that's how I found out. So anyway, Tony Hughes, what do you got?
Yes. Right.
We'll find your spot.
Yeah, I've got my spot. So if you're interested in the Librem 5 phone, which we've talked about a couple of times on the show, I found a YouTube video, which I'll put a link in the show notes to. It's just a general review, but I thought it might be of interest to listeners. And in the bit about the new Raspberry Pi Pico, I mentioned Hackspace magazine, and I've put a link in the check this out section to issue 39, which gives the a really good review of it. And like I say, on the second to back page, it's got the full schematics for the pin usage, so that's quite a useful thing to have. And just lastly, myself and Moss recorded Distro Hoppers Digest episode 19, so I've put a link in the show notes. And Dale. And I've put a link in the show notes for that as well.
Yay, cool. I'll be looking for that.
Go on, Moss. What have you got?
Okay. Listener Dylan Berger reviewed the Odyssey J145, a single board computer with a Celeron chip on its MOS. I've got a link for that. For those of you like me still coding in HTML4, the frames feature has been completely deprecated. This is why when you visit sites like Peaceful Hippo, my personal website, you don't see the menus. I need to get to work on a fix for this. Command line installer for VMs in Ubuntu, something I've never used, but which was referenced in Full Circle's Telegram group and just sounded sexy enough to include here. There's a link in the show notes for that. It's Foss has an article highlighting the Haruna video player you may find interesting. And It's Foss also has an excellent article on customizing your plasma settings. Josh, what do you got?
I have a Android mail client that I've been using probably for about a month now. I mainly just use it to do my Gmail stuff because I just never liked the Gmail app ever. no matter how many things they add to it. And it's called a Fair Email. Basically, you just download it, install it, and add your accounts in like you would any other email account. And the only thing with this one is that it works. It's not like K9 Mail, which I've tried over the years many times, and it just doesn't work with my Gmail accounts. I don't know if I'm doing something wrong or what, but I do it the same way as I did it in this email client to add the account, and it just, none of my emails come through. I don't know why, but this one does work if anyone wanted to try it out. Yeah, it's in the Play Store, it's in F-Droid. So yeah, I just wanted to plug that real quick.
Sounds cool. All right. Well, that's it. That's all. That's totally it. And I realize now, as we come down to the announcements, the second half of this show is going to be tiny.
Yeah.
There's only so many times
Darn
you can say
stable Linux Mint.
Seriously, there's only so many times you can say Linux Mint 20.1 is working just fine for me.
For Arch.
Right. See, we
need to get Tony a break, you know.
Yeah. Owen. Well, he's gonna have a heavy first half, but a less heavy second half.
I'm not talking about Owen. I'm talking about Tony's back doing this show.
Oh, true. It is. We're about a half hour early most of the time. So good, cool. Anyhow, our next episode will be 2 p.m. Central U.S. time on February 7th, 2021. And we've got the link. I'll update that on the website over the next day or so. And it'll convert it all for you. So just go click that link. And by the way, that's going to be at mintcast.org/livestreams. Go check that out. All right, well, that's it for the show. So, Joe, where can we find more of you?
Well, you can catch me on a couple other podcasts. I'm on the Linux Link Tech Show, which is www.tllts.org. We record every Wednesday evening. You can catch me on Linux Lugcast, which is www.linuxlugcast.com. And that's the first and third Friday of every month. And we're happy to always have other people come onto the show and hang out with us and talk about what they find interesting in Linux. You can find me on MeWe, or you can send me an email directly, jb@mintcast.org. Bo, how about you?
Just check out my YouTube channel. I'm trying to do a lot more stuff on there. As COVID kind of slowed me down for 2 weeks, but I'm trying to hit it hard in the next couple weeks. So that's Undercast Collective on YouTube. How about you, Moss?
Well, you can find me on my It's Moss website. I'm on MeWe. I have blogs at Peaceful Hippo and linuxquestions.org. My music is on Bandcamp and on various YouTube channels. There are 3 separate links there. Moss at mintcast.org. You can find me on Mastodon at Zyvola at hosttux.social. If you want a quick response emailing me, you should write me at zyvolananda@protonmail.ch, and that's in the show notes. And I have a sponsors, and I'm up to 3 sponsors. Tony, what about you?
Yeah, well, I'm on Hacker Public Radio, host ID 338. I've got my occasional blog at tony-hughes.blogspot.com. I'm on Twitter, TonyH1212. You can get me at th@mintcast.org and distrohoppersdigest@gmail.com.
Tony Watt's not here this time, but tw@mintcast.org, or just search up Echoes of Savages. Josh.
I think you can find me at Josh on Tech at oh crap! What's
mintcast.org?
Yeah,
Josh, it's our website. Come on.
Mintcast.org. Mintcast.org. I got it. Leo didn't say that. I did it. Anyway,
true.
No, I'm just kidding. And at protonmail.com as well as at Josh on Tech on Twitter and Discord and Telegram and all those other social sites.
As for me, leochavez.org and at leochavez on Twitter. I've got a mintcast.org one too, Leo at. I also do Linux User Space as well, so go check that out. And you can get your 5-minute news digest at Full Circle Weekly. news. I also I spun up one of those coffee things, so you can totally buy me a coffee if you want to do that. If you've donated to Audacity and you donated to archive.org and you still have $3 extra, you can buy me a coffee. So there'll be a link for that. Anyhow,
do we get to pick the coffee?
Can
we keep sending you double and triple espressos and see what happens?
That's what, yeah, and I'll drink it right before the show, and I will speak even faster than I did during the feedback, which was whoa.
I am okay with this.
I was really thinking like I need to get through this really fast because it's I want to keep the show short or whatever, and then I realized the second half of the show is not long at all. Okay.
I don't think we'll get complaints about that.
Yeah, probably not. Anyhow, before we leave, we want to make sure to acknowledge some of the people who make mintCast possible. Owen Peary for our audio editing, Josh Lowe for all his work on the website, Hobstar for our logo, and Londoner for our time sync. And news, by the way. So much news from Londoner. Thanks. Bytemark Hosting for hosting mintcast.org and our Mumble server, archive.org for hosting our audio files, HPR for our backup Mumble room, and of course, the Linux Mint development team for the fine distro we love to talk about.
Thanks, Clem.
Thanks, Clem.
Thanks, Clem.
And Co.
And Co.
Whoever Co is.
That's a wrap.
That's a wrap. Yay.
That's a wrap it.
So, actually, how long was the first half? Was it like it was like an hour 50, wasn't it?
Nearly an hour and 3/4.
Okay, so it's about an hour 45. So minus the couple minutes at the front and maybe a truncated silence, it might slim down to 1:30. I'm not holding my breath on that one. But yeah, so about an hour 30. Sorry,
I wonder if you put the security section in the second half to make it closer to the same size.
We could. I don't know how long I took on the security. It's probably like 7 minutes. But I mean,
it's not too long.
Nah, I think it'll be all right one way or the other. Honestly, I will leave it up to Owen, because Owen might hear this right now.
This is 353,
yeah,
right?
he was talking on the YouTube channel, so
we'll see if he pops back up here in just a minute. All right, mains. So,
exporting me audio now.
Same here.
Were you guys hearing any? Sorry, no, you go.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, were you guys hearing any fuzz or hearing it now on my audio?
Nope.
No,
clear.
Sound good.
Nope.
Okay.
But Mumble is pretty good about
getting rid of all that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll check on my Audacity, but I tried doing some fixes to see if I could clean it up on the Audacity, but we'll see.
Tony, I should have the show notes for episode 20 put together today or tomorrow.
It sounded like you said. It sounded like you said episode Tony.
Yet.
Episode Tony.
Oh, so do we have next show's topic?
And I totally got the number wrong. But I was talking to Josh. Josh and I have been doing mostly Josh, like 90% Josh has been doing like compression in general, and we started out with GZIP, right? I've played with XZ. I touched on pigs. I'm going to call it pigs, by the way. They don't get a choice.
Pigs.
All right, whatever.
Yeah, it's the multi-threaded version of GZIP. I know that's something that Josh has been digging into a lot, doing ButterFS, blah, 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 blah. Long story short, compression in general, and I think...
/ backup.
Yeah. So I think what ended up happening is we were going to have a compression show or just have like a compression topic, but it ballooned so much into backing up that, I don't feel like it'd be right to talk about this stuff without talking about RescueZilla and without talking about Part Clone and DD and all these other things. So let me put it to y'all. Episode 354 for that or episode 355 for that?
I'm fine either way with it.
Why would one be better than the other?
More time for y'all to play with it and whatever. If y'all want to like dig into some of these compressions, take a backup, compress it, see what happens.
The other thing I'm thinking is we had talked about before the end of the year having all these various interview shows. We had a lot of people lined up for interviews.
Yes, we have Linux Lover, which is actually one of your sponsors now, Moss.
He is.
That's a great name.
We need to bring him or her on, and just have a chat.
I do believe it's him. You can look it up on the internet.
Why don't we contact them and see which show they'd rather do, and then we do the opposite.
Cool. We'll do the compression on the opposite. Yeah. Sweet. All right. Well, I think they contacted me on Reddit, so I'll reach out.
I could definitely contribute to that conversation about all the compression and stuff.
Yes. All right. So
Speaking of compression,
I won't
Josh's
talk much
file's
that
almost
show.
twice as large as Joe's.
You
So
lot have got fast internet.
Oh crap! Mine's exporting in
Josh and
stereo.
Joe's is already up there.
Yeah.
Mine's almost there. Less than a minute.
Well, I started immediately as soon as we got done.
Yeah. So what I would challenge y'all to do, Moss, Tony, if you don't have a whole lot of things to say about a particular like about a compression episode or something like that, what you might want to try to do is just back up your home folder, and I can help with the commands for that and everything, and then
you can even use
So
GUI
what's the
tools if
name
you
of
want.
the tool? What's the name of the tool?
Nothing in particular.
Right.
You could just do
Compression,
a tar.
yeah.
Yeah, you can do a tar backup.
Yeah, I've been
And then-
fighting with tar for installing tar files for how long?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So you can tar up your whole archive and then compress it with XZ or GZ or pigs or
But how do you get the tar out?
Oh, so I can help you out with that. I know Josh can help too with.
So you could go into your whole home folder and pick, say, a folder and compress that, because I know you can zip things and stuff like that.
Yeah,
you can back it up and compress it at the same time with
and
one
you can
command.
Do that. You can do it through the GUI too. But
yeah,
one of the things that I think we ended up kind of focusing on was that compression ratios, right? Like GZ is better than XZ, but XZ is fast, and pigs is way faster than GZ, but it's the same compression. Yeah, exactly. And then this is what brought us into the whole RescueZilla thing, where
so what's the best one?
So far, RescueZilla is like literally the best.
Yeah,
but then some are better at being deduped afterwards than others.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's nuance there that I think that'll make a good innards. It'll make a good show.
So compression and backup software.
Yeah. And if y'all haven't tried RescueZilla, dudes, go try RescueZilla.
Yeah,
it's
seriously, it's pretty cool.
Fantastic. I took a whole system backup in 8 minutes.
Wow.
And
I mean, like it was my
well,
KDE
Neon.
I've
been having major problems with whatever Mint uses all the time.
So is
Timeshift,
RescueZilla in the repos?
No, it's its own thing. So you download it, you reboot
like
into it like a live ISO.
Oh right, yeah. So
But-
it's a bit like CloneZilla.
But way better because it's user friendly. You don't have to know crap about nothing. You just I want that partition or I want this disk.
Crap about nothing.
Not exactly. You just check a box and click backup, and it does it. And the worst you have to know is, plug in an external hard drive to save it to. That's literally all you got to do. So it's so cool.
Version 2.1.2.
Yep, should be based on Groovy Gorilla.
Yes. And so if you haven't experienced RescueZilla, let me ask you this: if you've ever experienced Acronis or Macrium Reflect, dude, RescueZilla is on is on that level. Go do it. It's so good.
We used to use Acronis at Geek Squad,
Right.
and
Downloading
Macrium Reflex really good too.
Yep, I like Macrium because it's super free. And you don't
I've
have to
always
think about
used Macrium, yeah. Except for they have updates literally every 2 days.
it. Dude, that's so annoying. I just if one version works, I just keep that version.
That's what I do too.
I'm not trying to keep up with that, dude. And RescueZilla would be the same too. Like if it turns out that it just works, like I'm not gonna go update that. I'm fine.
Yep.
I'm downloading it.
Same here.
Sweet, and it's small too. So
And he's working on ButterFS
Yeah,
support for it.
850 megs. So that's
It's
fit
an
on a
ISO.
1 gig drive.
yep. And Moss, it's got your G-parted. It's got all that stuff. So I
Yep.
mean, you can do a lot of your preliminary work that way.
I'm not sure
or,
what desktop it uses. Do you know?
something really slim.
Yeah, really.
Something I didn't talk about on the show. I actually had to move my partitions over a bit because apparently somehow my EFI partition got too full.
Oh,
yeah.
that'll happen.
That happens. Yeah.
What size do you
Moss?
have it at?
You just need to make it 2 gigs now.
There's a way to set that to automatically delete the oldest whenever it gets over a certain size.
Oh, nice.
We had
Well,
to
I
do that
tried
on
deleting
CentOS at
my
work.
I tried deleting my unused ones, and that didn't change anything.
But Moss over here running 14, man, it's gonna
Yeah,
screw up.
It'll fill up quick.
Yeah, it'd be like, oh, Linux, man, he hadn't used that in a while.
That's true.
Well, I'm currently only on 8, but still. I used the EFI to wipe out boots, EFI boot manager to wipe out boots, and it did not change the status of how full my directory was.
I don't even know how you manage that with EFI Boot Manager. Like when I have like 5 distros on there, I'm like, oh my gosh, what do I pick?
Well, guys, we're about to
you
jump
pick
off of
the
here.
ones that you're not loading on your machine.
See you later,
anymore.
Bo.
See you, Bo.
Yeah,
I
see ya.
uploaded my
Later.
audio and I misspelled my own name, so I'm Bebo and the
It's 2 letters, Bo.
and
Bebo.
also we were talking in the chat a little bit about doing a spin-off game show. So
Oh, yeah.
let's talk about that on Discord because I'm serious about it. I want to do it.
Listen.
Game
difference
show?
between doing a show about gaming and a game show.
We're gonna do a game
Linux
show.
game
It could be
show.
both.
20 questions.
Do you
You
know?
can phone a friend.
It could totally be both, right? Yeah, exactly, right? So if you didn't play the game, you got to phone a friend. That's the deal.
All right,
I'm
I'll
down
talk
with
to y'all
that.
later.
But
All
we
right,
don't
see
want to
ya.
just cover
Yes.
gaming again in one episode.
No, because that's not enough gaming.
No, because that's not enough. Yeah, we got to do it every week or every 2 weeks or whatever.
Going back to RescueZilla, desktop environment is LXDE.
Oh, okay. I thought it looked
I
slim.
mean, I was going to say, LXDE feels slim, so that makes a lot of sense.
Well, yeah, but haven't they stopped making LXDE?
Yeah, well, with distros that you're not going to really care about, like you load into RescueZilla and you spend a few minutes in there to get your backup and then you're done. I think in situations like that, LXDE will still be fine. Long
And you're
after-
probably not going to be connected to the internet while you're using it anyway, are you?
Yeah.
No,
can
it
be,
actually does
which
connect
is-
to the
yeah,
internet.
exactly.
It
You
does.
can,
No,
but you don't
it
have
can, but you're not going to be doing a lot of browsing.
Right.
and,
Right. It's
you
gonna be
know.
mostly local stuff. I would.
You know
Yeah.
what? I didn't even think about that. While you're backing up, you could just be browsing the internet. Like that
Yeah.
would work. That's cool.
Oh, and I did figure out that it was my graphics card with the open source NVIDIA driver that was causing it to go black and not come back on.
Like
It was
a no
still
mod
on.
set kind of situation.
Yeah, it was still on, but it wasn't. It wouldn't put the screen back on. But they actually have an option that it does no mode set already.
Oh, that's cool. Okay.
So you just click it. Yeah.
Well, I guess we've had a whole extra conversation. So those of you listening in the live stream, ain't nobody else gonna hear that but you. So unless Owen decides to sprinkle a little bit of that in the front and the back. So yeah, enjoy all of that, and thank you for coming in and listening and hanging out and all of that kind of good stuff. So y'all have a good 2 weeks, and we'll see you back here again in about 14 days.
Cool.
All right. So I'm gonna go kill this stream. Yeah, I'll be back.
Yeah. All right.
The stream is dead. Long live
I
the
need
stream.
to I need to stop the mumble recording.
Yeah. I noticed that was still going. But Joe, as far as the
Right, I'm off to bed. I'll see you
all right,
guys.
see ya.
Good night.
See you, Tony.
Night, Tony.
Night.
Hope your back feels better. Now you were saying?
But, yeah, as far as the Google Drive goes for the web apps, when you click on one of the links, it opens up the actual web browser on the